Bonjour, hi Canada. It's Friday. I'm inside the Beltway. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Thank you for listening. I hope you are following along on Facebook. I've got on my, I'm already wearing a Christmassy red sweater. Because if we're going to start Christmas before Thanksgiving, I might as well wear my Christmassy red sweater. And I have begun Christmas early because of the need to support Angel Tree. And I'm going to burn your ears out telling you about this, but they're on my heart. There are 2.7 million children. And I want you to think not of babies or of 17-year-olds, but the core group. You know, the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds for whom Christmas comes but once a year, and it's the greatest time of year. And among those 2.7 million, there are hundreds of thousands of children who have mom or dad or both in prison. And those children have nothing to do with that. They are innocent, and they are without a parent at Christmas because of incarceration. And Prison Fellowship has been running Angel Tree since 1982, providing a gift or gifts through your donations that are accompanied by a note from mom or dad in jail. They make it all work, and they can still make it all work except for the money. And the money they normally get from church patios across the United States. And that's because church patios are where people who are in the spirit of being thankful for First Advent and Christmas itself and the birth of the Christ child give generously, and they are reminded of the biblical injunction to take care to visit people in prison. They can't go themselves, or many cannot get near it, but especially in this year, but they can help out the children, and they do so through Prison Fellowship. One of those incarcerated moms is a woman named Michelle. She is helping other prisoners reach out through friends at Prison Fellowship. Michelle says her first experience meeting with other female inmates was not easy.
Scary women I would have been frightened of. We're now sitting across from me in this little tiny room where our knees are actually almost touching, and I'm helping them fill out an application for their children for Angel Tree. Angel Tree brought in hope, a little ray of light to a very, very dark place, and allowed us moms to be able to reach outside the prison walls to our families and let our children know that they weren't forgotten and that we were still thinking about them. Angel Tree just made a huge difference in my life.
So please go to HughHewitt.com. There's an Angel Tree banner at the very top. And I know you cannot miss it now. We moved it to the very top of the webpage so that some people were saying they couldn't find it. And so we just put it on the top. It's up there. You'll see the Christmas tree. Hit that. If you can give 100, 200, 500, you're really making Christmas happen. And more importantly, you're keeping intact some line, some tether between that child and that parent, so vital to keeping that child on the good and the narrow. And there's lots to celebrate and be thankful for. Yesterday, there was a press conference at the White House, and Mike Pence announced all the progress that was being made in Operation Warp Speed. Gustavo Perna is the general in charge of distribution of the vaccines. And cut number 17, this is the bottom line, cut 17.
From the time President Trump announced Operation Warp Speed, General Perna and his team have been working literally around the clock to build the distribution plan that you see that's in effect. And I hope you all heard that. I asked him how many of those kits have already been manufactured for merging with the Moderna product, and they've already assembled 100 million kits that are ready to go. And that's the supplies that are necessary for administering the vaccine.
General Perna himself took to the podium, cut 16.
You know, we are here today because our mission was clear. And our mission to Dr. Moncef Slaoui, my co-leader, and really heavily responsible for our success, we are here today because we focused on developing, manufacturing, and distributing a safe and effective vaccine and therapeutics to the American people. Our purpose is really clear: save lives. And it has driven us to this end state, and that's why we're here today.
Do we have another Perna cut? I thought we had two. We only have one. If there's a second one, you can play the second one. I don't think we have a second one. Dr. Fauci was there. Anthony Fauci spoke about how it's just impossible to understand what Operation Warp Speed has done. Cut number 13.
And I hear a lot now when we made these announcements this past Monday and then 2 Mondays ago about some reticence of people. Well, did you rush this? Was this too fast? Is it really safe? And is it really efficacious? The process of the speed did not compromise at all safety, nor did it compromise scientific integrity. It was a reflection of the extraordinary scientific advances in these types of vaccines, which allowed us to do things in months that actually took years before. So I really want to settle that concern that people have about that. What about the decision of the data? Who looked at the data? Was that some force that was maybe trying to put something over on you? No, it was actually an independent body of people who have no allegiance to anyone, not to the administration, not to me, not to the companies, that looked at the data and deemed it to be sound. Now that data will be examined very carefully by the FDA, who, together with a advisory committee, the Vaccine and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee, or VRBPAC, are going to look at that before the FDA makes the decision about putting this forth for an emergency use authorization or ultimately for a license. So
but they are going to look at it in a hurry because lives are on the line. They've got to move fast. They will move fast. They will not be irresponsible. But Operation Warp Speed is going to save millions and millions of lives, and it's going to start in December. Mike Pence, the vice president, put a cap on it, cut number 15.
Let me say, my hope is that Americans looking on and all of you responsible for sharing the news know that this team, working in cooperation with our states and with the cooperation of the American people, has made great progress. And we're getting there. We're getting there, America. And as I said at the outset, let me say, I hope it's more in evidence as you hear from this team about the abundance of supplies that are available today for our hospitals, our ability to track what's happening at your local hospital to make sure that it has the PPE and the equipment and supplies to provide the health care that your family may need. I hope as you heard about the extraordinary distribution plans of Operation Warp Speed and the confidence that Dr. Fauci expressed today, and the news that one of those research companies is going to submit an emergency use authorization tomorrow on the very first vaccine, that we are literally, we could well be just a matter of a few short weeks away from a vaccine being available across this country for the most vulnerable among us and for those that are caring for them in our hospitals and our clinics. I hope everything you've heard today gives evidence of what I said at the start, that America has never been more prepared to combat this virus. But let me be clear as I close. We all have a role to play in the days ahead. And you heard this team say, as we see that finish line, as we see light at the end of the tunnel, as President Trump often says, and you should see evidence here that we are rounding the corner to that day that we have a vaccine for the American people. We do want to encourage every American to continue to do your part. Wash your hands, practice social distancing, wear a mask when social distancing isn't possible. Do your part to put the health of your family, the health of your neighbors, the health of the people in your community first. We are all in this together. And as I've said many times from this podium over many, many months, I know that with the cooperation of the American people, with our incredible doctors and nurses and first responders, with the extraordinary partnership of federal and state and local health officials, and with God's help, we will get through this, and we will get through this together.
Operation Warp Speed is, without question, the greatest public health victory in history. Now, maybe another virus will come along, another pandemic will come along, and will be even faster, but nothing has ever happened like this. And the credit goes to Donald Trump, and it burns on the tongue of many of his critics, but he put together Operation Warp Speed. They will never bring themselves to acknowledge it, but history will. Operation Warp Speed is a huge success. Markets know that, by the way. This market report brought to you by Birch Gold. Go to HughGold.com, HughGold.com to buy your gold in these uncertain times, because I think inflation is certainly going to arrive when the virus is abated, the vaccine is distributed, and people begin to shop again and spend pent-up demand more than they can do online. And I think inflation is going to be a real deal. But gold this morning is at $1,862 an ounce. You can buy some for yourself in these anxious times at HughGold.com. You can text my name, Hugh, to 474747. You can buy gold for your grandchildren for Christmas, for your children for Christmas. You can move a portion of your retirement portfolio into a gold-backed precious metals, actual physical gold administered by Birch Gold. But it starts when you go to hughgold.com or when you text my name, Hugh, to 474747. You should do it this morning. And you should get prepared because Operation Warp Speed is real and it's arriving soon, and the economy is coming back, and I'm afraid inflation. Stay tuned. This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia." Because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff election. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Let's go to a true expert in the field. His friends call him Fredo, and he's not happy with another medical professional called Dr. Atlas. And the question at hand is Thanksgiving. This is cut 7. I think Fredo's taken too many steroids. Play cut.
What the hell are you doing here? Yeah, it could be their last Thanksgiving. If you expose them to people who aren't wearing masks, who aren't socially distancing, and haven't been doing so, and haven't gotten tested, because they somehow think they don't want to get in on the con of COVID. You know, you want to hide on state news, you do it. But someday, you're going to have to deal with real questions. And either you're going to come on a show or you're going to do it, but you know what? We may go back to old school. And maybe the questions will come find you. Maybe when you're living your life nice and easy, because you don't have the concerns that these same people that you're telling to rise up, that they have. Maybe the questions will come and find you, because you have to answer for that kind of guidance, let alone it's a doctor.
Let me get this straight. Fredo Cuomo is, I can't say the P word, can I? Can I say the P word? Is annoyed, is angry that people compare him to a member of the mafia, the fictional mafia family, the Corleone family, and call him Fredo. That makes him angry and PO'd. But then on his show, he threatens Dr. Atlas of the president's COVID team. What does it mean? The question will come and find you. What does that mean? What, with bullets in the kneecap?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
My guest book is called COVID-19, A Physician's Take on the Exaggerated Fear of the Coronavirus. He is Dr. Jeffrey Barkey. Dr. Donald Trump recovered pretty quickly from the time that he announced that he had contracted the coronavirus. Were you surprised he bounced back so fast?
I wasn't, for a couple reasons. Number one, he was treated early with mild symptoms. Although they took him to the hospital, it probably wasn't necessary. Also, although I don't know this, I believe he was already on hydroxychloroquine, which reduces viral replication. In addition, he was on multiple supplements that work really well, and that includes things like zinc, melatonin, and vitamin C. And so I wasn't surprised, and he had world-class therapeutics at his disposal, and I think anybody would recover quickly if they're treated early with mild symptoms.
Doctor, why is hydroxychloroquine so controversial?
Because Donald Trump, way back in the day, during his press conference, made mention of it, and it's very cheap. and it's generic, and they hate Donald Trump. So immediately that drug became political to the point that pharmacies were refusing to dispense it when I'd write a prescription, and other doctors as well. And the Medical Board of California came out with a statement that said prescribing hydroxychloroquine could subject a physician to unprofessional conduct. Never in the history of
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. I got to tell you, Operation Warp Speed is the most significant story of the year, but the most significant political story of the year. Some will say President-elect Biden's victory is, and certainly that is significant. But beyond this election cycle, we'll have 3 presidential elections in the decade ahead, right? 2024 and 2028, and actually 2 in the decade ahead and 3 in the next 12 years. But we will have elections every other year, and they will be redistricted elections in 2022, 24, 26, 28, and 30. 5 of them. And the redistricting will be with a redistributed number of House seats. After the census, House seats are reallocated on the basis of population. States gaining House seats, representation will go up in the states of Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Montana, North Carolina, and Oregon. They get more House seats. States that are losing seats are Alabama, California, Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and West Virginia. The GOP controls the process completely in Florida, Texas, and Ohio. Divided control is elsewhere in most places, and some states have, quote, nonpartisan commissions. Arizona, California, Colorado, and Michigan. Now, my friend Noah Rothman has pointed out that the GOP in 2010 had state-level government control in 23 states versus the Democrats' 15. So little has changed. Actually, a lot changed because the states, especially Florida and Texas, that are getting seats are totally red states with no redistricting commission. The states that are losing seats, like California, Virginia is static. They have independent commissions for the first time. Now, those independent commissions might fall under a new Supreme Court. That is going to be one of the most interesting things. But President Trump delivered a huge victory to the House of Representatives through the work of Kevin McCarthy, the leader, and Steve Scalise and Tom Emmer of Minnesota. In fact, as of last night, as I did my math, it appears that Republicans have won Democrats have won 223 House seats and Republicans 213. That's the narrowest margin Democrats have had to work with in modern times, 223 to 215. Nancy Pelosi can only lose 4 members before, 223 to 222 to 213.
That
222 to 222 to 213. That's what it looks like last night. There are 2 House seats, both of which currently have a Republican leading by 50 and 106 votes, respectively. 1 in Iowa, 1 in New York. The Republican is ahead by 50. That's been recounted. The Republican is ahead in New York by 106 votes. That hadn't been recounted yet, so it might go up to 223. That's why I'm a little bit fuzzy on the numbers. But let's say it's 222 to 213. You can only lose 4 votes and still win. If you lose 5, you lose. And I began to muse aloud last night. You know, Kevin McCarthy is going to be visiting all these Democrats who are moderate across the Midwest and places where redistricting is going to happen and say to them, do you want to plant your flag with AOC in the squad? Or do you want to do what Jeff Van Drew did, who, by the way, switched parties and stayed and was reelected as a Republican in New Jersey? Do you want to plant your flag with us? I mean, it's not impossible. But what is impossible? And in Georgia, time for me to do what I do every day. This is what Chuck Schumer said to the good people of Georgia. He is the New York liberal Democrat, Chuck Schumer, cut number 1.
Now we take Georgia, and then we change the world. Yeah! I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Mr. Schumer? Now we take Georgia, and then we change America.
Yeah, that's what he's planning on doing, Georgia. That's why you have to register before December 7th. You independents, you Republicans, you sane Democrats. You cannot elect Raphael Warnock. You cannot elect Jon Ossoff. You have to return Senator David Perdue, Senator Kelly Loeffler. You have to send them back to stop Chuck Schumer from taking Georgia and using it to change America. That means your Second Amendment rights, your religious liberty rights. That means cutting your Medicare to shreds. That means cutting military spending, defunding the police. The whole radical agenda depends on Georgia. And I don't think Georgia is radical. We'll find out. Don't go anywhere, America. Coming back with Sonny Bunch on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Here's some big picture stuff. Two things are going to remain true. Much of the country will stay convinced that this election was not legitimate, it wasn't fair, it wasn't accurate, it wasn't right. Much of the country, including those who are glad Biden supposedly won, are glad that there was such chaos and a nightmarish election. They're celebrating. They don't care how Trump lost. They don't care how he gets defeated. They don't care if it's an impeachment that will do it. Doesn't bother them if it's a phony Russia investigation. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's leaks from the White House and people stabbing in the back who are supposed to serve at the pleasure of the president. It doesn't matter if the media lies about polls. 17 points Biden was going to beat Trump in Wisconsin. Look at Wisconsin. Look at Wisconsin. I think that it was a 20,000 vote differential in Wisconsin, less than a percentage point, that Biden supposedly edged out Donald Trump. Wink, wink. The Washington Post poll said that Biden was going to win by 17 points. Oh, but that's an accident, right? That has to do with just flawed polling, right? Bull crap. So guess what? Mainstream media, you're stuck.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia." Because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff elections. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I just want you to know this may disturb some of you, and I have to take that risk to be honest at all times. There are two. Right now, there are two major possibilities: that Joe Biden won the election honestly, or that he won it dishonestly. And I'm not saying that Joe Biden was involved in the dishonesty. If that was the case, I'm just making. I mean, there is a third option, and that is that if he won it dishonestly, then President Trump won it honestly. I understand that. That's a very difficult hurdle to prove. I think we have to realize that. He has every right to try it, as Alan Dershowitz, who I assume voted for Biden, has just made clear in a column. The president has every right to try, and there does seem to be a cheating. But I would pose this question, since I don't want any conservatives to make up scenarios that are not true. That would bother me even more than if the left lied, because if my side lied, then we really have little, if any, hope for the society. So it gives you an idea of how committed I am to the truth.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
The situation in each state is a little different. In Arizona, they are simply refusing to have a recount, and that's outrageous. The law says you're only entitled to a mandatory recount if you lost by fewer than 500 votes. And that's designed for dog catcher elections. But for president in a state that casts 3 million votes, you're not going to have a 500 vote margin. In Georgia, they're having a recount, but the inspectors are 40 feet away. There's no way the Republican can see them doing this recount.
Let me say, my hope is that Americans looking on and all of you responsible for sharing the news know that this team working in cooperation.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. Slow getting back to my chair, joined by Sonny Bunch. Good morning, Sonny. How are you?
I'm doing well, Hugh. How are you?
Good. You know how the projectionist is sometimes, late to start the show and people start to boo? That's what happens with my team whenever I'm late to sit down in the chair. Hey, Sonny Bunch, I got to ask you, I saw you write a piece about it being safe to go back to the theaters in South Korea, et cetera. You're fighting an uphill battle here.
Yeah. Well, I didn't write that piece. I was just tweeting about it. Look, here is the simple truth. And I want to be as plain on this as possible. There have been 0 COVID cases tracked to a theater, right? I don't mean people who. I don't want to say that nobody who has gone to the theater has had COVID. Obviously, people have gone to the theater; they've had COVID. I'm saying no transmissions have been tracked to a theater, right? And Korea has the best tracking and tracing program, in the world. Essentially, they don't have HIPAA there. There's no worry about privacy laws or anything like that. In South Korea, where people have been going back to the movie theaters and where there was some coronavirus, nobody who has the virus has caught it in a movie theater. Now, look, this is. It's hard to say for sure, how reliable any of these numbers or stats or anything like that are, right? We live in kind of a weird time, and we live in a situation where tons of people aren't going to the movie theaters anyway. Theaters aren't super crowded and all that. But the simple fact of the matter in all of the medical materials is that nobody has actually traced a super spreader event to a theater. Nobody has traced a mass outbreak to a theater. I wouldn't say that it's a 100% certainty that nobody has caught coronavirus in a movie theater. But it is absolutely true with total certainty that no super spreader events have been traced to a theater.
So here, let me cut to the bottom line.
Yeah.
I think this is going to revert to the norm as soon as the vaccine is out. The fetching Mrs. Hewitt and I are back in the theater as soon as we have that vaccine. So unlike many things like retail and brick and mortar stores and many patterns of work, etc., theaters will bounce back if they survive. Right. To me, I think people can't wait to go back to the movies. And if I were the theater, the movie producers, I'd be shooting at April and doing my release distribution for maybe March, if we're very, very lucky, and even possibly February. Is anyone planning that way? Because I listened to the press conference yesterday on Operation Warp Speed, and we're going to roll that out in America, and then it's going to go around the world in lightning speed because lives depend on it, Sonny. So the movie business can start to reboot.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say exactly what the studios are doing because everybody just kind of keeps pushing everything back by 3 to 6 months, right? My basic sense of things is that the studios are more or less hoping that by next summer, things will at least be normal enough that they can release big tentpole stuff in theaters without taking a huge loss on it. It's hard to plan these things out. The studios have been trying to essentially go month by month and figure everything out. I mean, the big news this week, of course, is that Wonder Woman, the Wonder Woman sequel, WW84, is headed straight to HBO Max, in addition to being in movie theaters on December 25th of this year.
Oh, man, I missed that. I missed that breaking news, so you might expand on it. In fact, Sonny, what's on your agenda to review this week and break news about? I hijacked it. I'll
get to reviews in a second, but I mean, it is interesting. So HBO Max is a streaming service that is essentially HBO Plus. It's HBO plus a whole bunch of other stuff. There's some Turner Classic Movies. There's some Sesame Street for the kids, Looney Tunes, that sort of stuff. HBO Max is probably my favorite streaming service. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think it's the best. I think it has the best lineup of movies and original stuff, buoyed by the whole HBO experience. But the service has floundered a little bit. It's struggled because it's not available or has not been available on Roku and Amazon Fire. And the folks at HBO, well, the folks at AT&T really, because HBO is part of Warner Brothers, which is owned by AT&T now. They struck a deal with Amazon this week to be available on the Amazon Fire. I have a feeling that they are going to strike a deal with Roku at some point in the near future, which will give them access to the rest of the market. And what HBO Max is doing is putting the Wonder Woman sequel directly on HBO Max, in addition to being in theaters. So it'll be playing on HBO Max free of charge without, unlike the Mulan debacle for Disney Plus, it's just going to be, on the service. It'll be on HBO Max and in theaters on December 25th. So you can either go see it in a movie theater if you feel safe, or you can watch it at home and sign up for HBO Max if you do not.
All right, second question. How are you enjoying Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, who has graced us twice and this week created quite a lot of news on this show?
I like the book quite a bit. I mean, it's a very weird Hollywood memoir insofar as it is utterly unconcerned with what he actually has done in Hollywood. I mean, it's not the traditional Hollywood memoir where he's talking about, hanging out with stars and the big movies he's been in. He certainly talks about the films he's been in, and there are interesting passages on, being in romantic comedies and getting Dallas Buyers Club made and all that sort of stuff. But it's a very weird book insofar as it is almost a collection of Zen koans more than anything else.
That's very well put. So what else is on your review list?
It's well. Again, we live in this strange, weird time, right? I've been watching things on Netflix mostly because that's what we have to watch. So up this week, of course, is the new season of The Crown. Have you been watching The Crown, Hugh?
Yes, we are at episode 5. I want more Thatcher, less Diana, and I want a real Thatcher. This is a bad Thatcher. They did not get. Larry Arnn will be on later, and I'll ask him about it. He knew Maggie Thatcher pretty well. This is not the Maggie Thatcher I remember.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that because I've heard a lot of praise. So I'm actually on the 5th episode as well. I mean, I've been watching a couple episodes a night, and. I'm glad to hear you say that about the Gillian Anderson interpretation of Maggie Thatcher because I will be honest with you, it strikes me as very
grudging. It's grudging. She's much funnier and much happier and much more of a happy warrior and much smarter than this gives her. And she loved her mother, by the way. I just know that as a biographical fact.
Yeah. No, it is. The problem with this is that it feels like a collection of tics more than an actual acting exercise. Gillian Anderson. I loved her in X-Files, but she is very much a TV actress. She is not Meryl Streep or Glenn Close or somebody else. She is putting together a bundle of tics. And you're right. I need more Margaret Thatcher and more. What is happening in Britain in the 1980s and less Princess Di. But I mean, look, this is the problem on the show is that it is a soap opera essentially. It's a very expensive, very grandiose, very.
They skipped over a massive loss of life proportionately for the Argentinians and the Brits. They skipped over it. I could not believe it.
Yeah, the total lack of interest in what actually happened in the Falklands is kind of surprising given the nature of what happened there and the importance of it to the Brits and the Argentinians. They definitely just kind of glossed over that whole sequence, except to make it seem that it happened because Margaret Thatcher was distracted by her son being lost in
idiocy, just idiocy.
Wilderness. I don't think much of the season, to be totally honest. But I'm only halfway through it. I don't want to judge it entirely. It's not, it's hard to judge a thing before you're done with it. Maybe by the end she pulls it together and is the hero of the Cold War that we all know and love.
Possibly. What else? Anything else on the Sonny Bunch Netflix consumption menu?
Well, not on Netflix, but on Disney Plus. The Mandalorian season 2 is back.
No, I have not watched that yet. What do you think? Thumbs up?
I've been enjoying it. The second season of The Mandalorian feels very much like a season of Gunsmoke or something like that, or even like the A-Team or some other classic 80s show. It is very much about a guy, a stranger rolling into town after town and setting wrongs right and getting everything back to normal. I've quite enjoyed it. I'm going to be totally honest with you, Hugh.
The Mandalorian A-Team.
The Mandalorian.
I had not thought of that. The Mandalorian A-Team.
Yeah, that's basically what's happening. He's
I love it when a plan comes together.
He's basically Face rolling into town after town, setting up plans and taking out bad guys. I love it. It's very basic. It's very simple, but it's quite entertaining.
How many more seasons of that do we have coming up, Sonny? Do you know?
Oh, no idea. I mean, I don't think Disney Plus knows. Well, maybe Disney Plus knows, but they haven't told us if we're in for 3 or 6 or 10 or 100 seasons.
If it's making money, it'll go forward. Sonny Bunch, thank you as always. He you can find him in the Washington Post. You can find him at the Bulwark online. Sonny, the Bulwark goes to the movies, and you can find Sonny on Twitter at SonnyBunch. You can find me bereft of Relief Factor. This is the first week in about 10 years that I have not had any Relief Factor, and I blame Tony King. There, I named him. Tony, this is on you. I don't grind to a halt. It's not like the robot in Lost in Space, for those of you for whom that makes any sense at all, without the electricity. Danger, Dwayne, radio blogger, danger. No, it's simply the minor aches and pains for which temporary relief is sought and which is supported by ReliefFactor.com are going to come at me tomorrow morning when I go a long way, when I trundle my long trundle on a Saturday morning We should have come Saturday morning music, Adam, because Saturday morning is right around the bend, and it's normally the big exercise day for everybody in the country, and ReliefFactor.com is nowhere to be seen inside the Beltway. But maybe one of my neighbors who subscribes to, I may go and get some from my neighbor. I know who gets it locally. ReliefFactor.com, 1995, brings you into the circle of people who get the advantage of Icarian, Kirkman, Resveratrol, and Omega every single day. And Generalissimo, his better half, I think has been pilfering. I think she's backstopping, short-stopping the ReliefFactor.com on the way here. Coming back with Tarzana Joe. Don't go anywhere, America, except to order ReliefFactor.com. Be right back on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
The situation in each state is a little different. In Arizona, they are simply refusing to have a recount, and that's outrageous. The law says you're only entitled to a mandatory recount if you lost by fewer than 500 votes. And that's designed for dog catcher elections. But for president in a state that casts 3 million votes, you're not going to have a 500 vote margin. In Georgia, they're having a recount, but the inspectors are 40 feet away. There's no way the Republican can see them doing this recount, much less check the ballot.
What is that? What kind of a joke is that? I mean, I don't really even understand.
Democrats being partisan. It's the election.
It's called cheating, Dick. It's called cheating. How do you? How is that possible? How can the lawyers? How can this be possible that they would allow? Well, it's obviously cheating.
I think Trump's people were asleep at the switch and should have been there in these polling places protesting. Certainly the recount. During the recount, they were protesting, but they were not listened to. Also in Georgia, I think I said earlier, but let me repeat, there were 200 people between the ages of 105 and 110 who voted. There were 2,000 people over the age of 100 who were supposed to have voted. And there were 27,000 people over the age of 90, between 90 and 100, who were said to have voted. And I wish everybody health in Georgia, but somehow I don't think all those people actually voted.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Newt Gingrich said that if the absentee ballot requests and the absentee ballot submissions were done based on previous precedent, President Trump would have won the state by 40,000 votes. Officials in Fayette County unearthed 2,755 ballots that have not been included in the original count. 1,500 of them went for Trump, 1,100 for Biden. So that's a 400 vote gain for President Trump. The audit of votes in the presidential race also revealed missing votes in Walton County. 284 ballots were added from the between precinct. They netted 176 votes for President Trump. And Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger's office cited human error and gross negligence in 2,600 missing votes in Floyd County. He called for the Floyd County election manager to resign. And now a Republican election monitor discovered 9,626 vote error in the DeKalb County hand recount. One batch was labeled 10,707 for Biden and 13 for Trump, an improbable margin even by DeKalb standards.
Joined now by the poet laureate of the Hugh Hewitt Show, Tarzana Joe. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Hugh. You know, sometimes you write exactly what's on your mind, and sometimes you have to speak in parables. I present a parable. Because I've lived so many years, my knowledge is extensive. I lived back when long-distance calls were really quite expensive. When I called home from college, 2 quick rings were the sign. Dad called me back to put the charge on his bill, not on mine. Now, one year, my good roommate, old Ralph from East Nebraska, he had a friend he liked to call who lived in Nome, Alaska. They chat for just a minute. I think his name was Benny. And when that bill came every month, it cost a pretty penny. Then one week when he made the call, poor Benny's mood was sour. That call to cheer old Benny up took more than half an hour. When he thought what that bill would be, old Ralph got really sick. He knew he had to make a plan and make one really quick. Hey, Benny, don't hang up the phone, and I won't hang up mine. Leave it off the hook all night. It's going to work out fine. Weeks later, when the bill arrived, Ralph called AT&T. An 18-hour call to Nome? Come on, that couldn't be. Ma Bell admitted her mistake. Don't worry, please forget it. And when the next bill came, of course, they issued him a credit. That was the most ambitious scheme I ever saw conceived. Do something so outrageous that it just can't be believed. Reflect on this a moment. Use some meditation. Perhaps it is a mirror of our current situation. That's a parable, a fable, a romanoclef by Tarzana Joe.
Is that the whole title?
Well, don't concentrate on the title. What about
I know it was a fine verse, but if I'm going to remind people, do I have to do all three?
Oh, no. A parable.
A parable. Okay, goodness. Will a parable be posted at TarzanaJoe.com?
A parable will be posted.
All right. And how is the Christmas season? Has it become early for Christmas toast in absentia? Zoom toast, maybe?
I think people have had all this time to prepare for the holidays, and they haven't done it because they don't accept it coming. So I'm getting these poems like, I need a poem tomorrow. I need a poem Thursday. Come back idea. So guys, use this weekend to reflect, meditate, and then call your local neighborhood poet.
TarzanaJoe at Reagan.com. All your poetry needs, reasonably priced, excellent communication and execution. TarzanaJoe at Reagan.com. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Hugh.
I came upon the Fetching Mrs. Hewitt yesterday doing Christmas shopping online for the far-flung clan, and I thought to myself, I said, we have very young grandkids. I said, I'm getting them an American Eagle. And she said, what? I said, I'm giving them each an ounce of gold. And I can afford to do that, and maybe you can't, and I'm sorry, but you could get them silver. You can do the same thing. And if you're getting them gold, go to Birch Gold. And I'll tell you why. If you buy gold right now, not only will they throw in the silver dollar, if you buy $5,000 or more, and that's not a great incentive, but it's fun. You can get your own gold and save it, or you can roll over a portion of your IRA or 401k into Birch Gold and be more secure for what I think have to be hyperinflation. Everything we've ever learned about economics tell us that the world has basically, it hadn't doubled its debt. It's probably increased its debt by 20% in 12 months, maybe 30% in 12 months. I don't know. It's a lot. We've never had this level of stimulus before because of the lockdowns. Well, when money accelerates, the good news is the vaccine is here, and the economically unsettling news is the vaccine is here. I think today an emergency youth authorization application goes in, according to Vice President Pence. Free the Moderna or Pfizer, and I think both of them will get it very quickly. That means normal activity will be back. Restaurants will reopen. As soon as I get that vaccine, I'm going out to dinner in any restaurant I want because I believe in its efficacy. I know that we're not going to... all credit to Operation Warp Speed, to the scientists, the executives of American science and worldwide science, and President Donald Trump and Vice President Pence and Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and every member of the Operation Warp Speed task force and everybody up and down the line. Thank you. God bless you. But when that comes, all of that stimulus, Steve Mnuchin yesterday said we're rolling back the stimulus. People in Congress are saying, I don't think we need any more stimulus. And the reality is it's going to be an inflationary cycle. So with instability ahead, you want to get on to some gold. Now, gold is up a little bit this morning at $18.65, but I encourage all of you, if you can afford it for Christmas, give gold. Go to hughgold.com or text my name, Hugh, to 474747. That is the present for this year, because this time next year, we're going to look back and say interest rates were the lowest in history. Gold was only $18.65. I think that's what we're going to say. You know, I'm not a prophet nor the son of the prophet, but I can remember Act 10 from long ago. You increase the money supply, you have more money chasing the same number of goods. Those goods get more expensive, including gold, including everything. So it's a good time to be an investor in that which you are certain will go. Now, I own Amazon. I always tell people I own Amazon because it's the only stock about which I have got certainty it'll be here for 10 years. But I know gold will be here for 10 years. Remember, HughGold.com, HughGold.com. Come back next hour and meet two more new members of the House of Representatives, Lauren Boebert of Colorado, Nicole Malliotakis of New York. Great big red wave in the House, and we continue to celebrate it on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Stay tuned. This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia." Because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff elections. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
So the intimidation, the fear of violence, the increase of violence we have witnessed across America for the last 10 months, that's what should make us happy? That we maybe dodged even more violence? Is that how America was founded? Is that how the Boston Tea Party occurred? That those who try to intimidate us succeed, and we see that as the silver lining? My friend's friend said, well, you know, if he takes the White House, at least now we'll have time that all of these things have been uncovered to fix them. And again, resisting my wife's blandishments to behave, I said, what? The Democrats are going to fix it? If Biden steals the election and he's in the White House and they have the House of Representatives and potentially the Senate if they can steal the Georgia runoffs as well. Oh, that's when the Democrats fix things? That will be the conclusion they drew, that, oh, we stole this election. So now let's make it harder for us to steal the next one. What planet are these people living on?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
I am talking to Dr. Jeffrey Barkey. The book is called COVID-19, A Physician's Take on the Exaggerated Fear of the Coronavirus. The treatment that President got was obviously Cadillac treatment. Had Joe Schmo contracted the coronavirus around the same time the president did, same age, same comorbidities, would he or she have gotten the same kind of treatment?
No, not for early mild symptoms. So remdesivir, which was one of the treatments that President Trump got, is only available if you're hospitalized. So by definition, those are very sick patients. And that's the wrong time to use it, although certainly it's available and it can be effective. The best time to use any intervention is in the early mild stages. So think of it this way. Imagine if we told a woman who came down with breast cancer just to stay at home and go about their lives and come back only if the breast cancer gets worse or spread. You'd be considered unprofessional and crazy, but yet that's what we're currently doing with COVID.
Tell us about immune systems matter.
Well, they do, yet here we are slathering up in hand sanitizer and every other possible anti-bacterial, antiviral component. We have robust immune systems that God gave us for a reason, and that's to protect us. So as soon as we stop allowing our immune systems to function by wearing a mask everywhere we go, by slathering ourselves with hand sanitizer and other antimicrobials, we're actually causing problems. We're hurting ourselves. We lock people up in their homes, especially kids. We don't allow them to get exposed to the world. And then when their immune system is finally challenged, they're in a weakened state and they can't mount an immune response the way they should be able to.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Sean Hannity put it best last night on Fox News. What the hell is happening in Georgia? Once again, almost 3,000 uncounted votes in Georgia discovered, which of course immediately makes one worry about the hugely important Senate runoffs that are coming up January 5th. With Republicans David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler squaring off against the radical Democrats who want to be part of the reason that the Democrats control the entire U.S. government. Here was Sean last night.
Now, breaking moments ago, the state of Georgia's hand recount magically, how many days after Election Day, uncovered yet another 2,700 uncounted ballots, the majority of which, shockingly cast for President Trump. Last night, same story, another 2,600 uncounted ballots were discovered, and again, most of those ballots in favor of the president. What the hell's happening in Georgia and in our country? You know, why are we still finding thousands of ballots weeks after the election?
Well, it's happening because this election is a mess. And everybody knows it's a mess. From the pollsters and the pundits who predicted that Biden would crush Donald Trump, to all of the victories for Republicans down ballot. And make no mistake, Republicans crushed it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia." Because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff elections. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Take a risk in saying this, but it'll be very hard to be optimistic if the left gets control of the Senate, the House, and the presidency.
Well, they'll have absolute free reign and also that make massive changes to the direction of this country and drive us towards socialism and a permanent Democrat majority. You know what they'll be doing, right? Not only is it the
Morning, glory, America, bonjour, hi, Canada. Greetings to my 400 affiliates. It's Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway, and I hope you are off to a great Friday morning wherever you are across this great country or around the world. If you're watching on Facebook, good morning. If you're watching on Instagram, good morning. Look, the Republicans had a huge night 2 weeks ago in the House of Representatives. They were supposed to lose anywhere from 15 to 25 seats. They won a bunch. The worst they can be is 225 to 210. They could be down 15 seats in the House. Worst case scenario, they might be as high as 213. There are two that are out that will be decided by less than 200 votes total. But one of the big winners, Lauren Boebert, joins me. She is the representative-elect from Colorado's 3rd Congressional District. Good morning, Congresswoman-elect Boebert. Welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show. It's great to meet you.
Good morning. It is great to meet you, great to be on, and good morning to all of your listeners. It's a great day here in America.
Now, I've been on KNUS out of Colorado and on the West Slope out of the Grand Junction for, 20 years. And Michelle Austin has taken me highways and byways. I've been all over that state. I lived there for a while, taught at Colorado Christian University, but I never met Lauren Boebert. Where were you, and why did it take so long for you to decide to get into change Colorado politics?
I was serving up hot meals in Rifle, Colorado at my restaurant. I own Shooter's Grill there in Rifle. We've been open for 7 years. And I have a little niche there. All of my waitresses open carry firearms. So we kind of have a platform for the Second Amendment. And I became a small-time Second Amendment advocate right there at home in Rifle, Colorado. And through that, just an advocacy for freedom began to develop. I began to read and study the Constitution, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the vision our founding fathers had for our country, and I saw how far away we were going from that. And so there was this frustration that began to build, and eventually that frustration led me to Aurora, Colorado, after Beto O'Rourke told the whole nation exactly what Democrats plan to do with our guns. From a presidential debate stage, I'm sure you remember, he said, Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15s and your AK-47s. Well, it wasn't enough for me to sit back in my restaurant and complain about that guy. So I got in my car and drove 3 hours to his presidential rally with my Glock on my hip. And I looked him in the eye and told him, hell no, you're not. And in that moment, I learned if I take a stand for what I believe in, if I stand for freedom like so little others were doing, I can affect and represent millions. And so now, here we are. I threw my hat in the ring to represent Colorado's 3rd District. I'm the first woman to represent that district and the first mom.
Representative-elect Boebert, you're in D.C. this week. Have you gone back, or are you still inside the Beltway?
So I'm in D.C. now. We'll be headed back tomorrow, and then we come back again for another stretch of freshman orientation. And I got to tell you, I'm so encouraged. We've been here almost 10 days. And it is such a pleasure to be with these other dynamic freshmen in the class of the 117th Congress. These are people who are here for the right reasons. These are freedom-loving patriots who all said, it's selfish of me to sit at home and not put my hand to something to be a part of the solution in securing American exceptionalism.
Now, we are a freedom people. I like to say that. And I think this incoming class of GOP Congress people are amazing, especially the women. And I am curious if you feel a little bit of awe walking into the Congress, Davy Crockett style. I don't think they let you do open carry inside the Congress, but Jim Webb got into trouble doing that a few years ago. But what's it feel like to walk into the Congress and it's your house now? You were sent there by the people.
Yes, well, I think when I start calling it my house, that's when I need to leave, because it is still the people's house. And going in there, though, there is a sense of awe. There's a sense of reverence, and it really humbles you when you walk in. And I think when that feeling leaves anyone, it's time for them to leave D.C., because we are here representing hundreds of thousands of people. And that. I have 800,000 people there in my district, and I want to honor them each and every time I step foot into that building. And
let me put it differently, Congresswoman. It's your address now. It's not your house. You're right.
Yeah.
So how does it? I mean, are you in awe of it? How has Leader McCarthy been? What are you learning that you didn't know? What's the challenge ahead for Lauren Boebert?
Everyone has been absolutely fantastic. Leader McCarthy's been great. We actually saw Speaker Nancy Pelosi. She came in and addressed us there on the House floor. I was very tempted to shout out to her, Speaker Pelosi, your hair looks really great. Where'd you get it done? But I resisted.
Well, you got a long career ahead of you. You already have quite the good buzz around you. Do you know which committees you're going to be on?
Everyone is fighting for committees right now. We're all kind of scrambling and seeing what we could get. I want everything that they probably won't give me. Colorado is huge on energy. And so I would love to, I put my marker down for energy and commerce, but natural resources would be fantastic for my district. And, I'm always up for a good fight against people who are trying to destroy American values and promote socialism. So I would love to go on judiciary or oversight and review and have those debates and conversations and put to bed this socialist narrative.
Well, how are you going to get Colorado back in the red column? When I have been there, I've been going there for, as I said, 20 years, and I have campaigned for back to Allard, back to Bill. It's just pained me to see it go blue, and those are the Californians who fled California to go there. How do you get them back to West Slope values, Representative-elect Boebert?
Well, the West Slope folks, they need to start rising up. These rural Coloradans, rather than just sitting back and letting all these people come in and take over, bring their policies that they're fleeing from into our state and then start implementing them there. Us Coloradans need to start rising up and getting in these positions of influence. And I believe that my race and many others throughout the country are pioneering the way for that. And we're showing people you can do this. You are qualified to step up and do your part to serve your country. And so I hope that my race and these other races that we're seeing just motivate people to enter in themselves. We need good people on the Board of Education. And if we got just two major churches from any county actually got involved in the election process for the school board, we could change our schools right there. That's where your curriculum is determined. And so I think that there are people who are getting that feeling of I need to do something, and we are going to see them stepping up and serving.
So let me ask you a little inside baseball. Colorado has an independent commission for redistricting. If Democrats run that, they're going to come after you. What do you think is ahead in the redistricting process over the next 2 years, Representative Boebert?
I do believe that I will be a target for them in the redistricting process, but I'm not worried. We are already developing a fantastic team for our constituent services, and we're going to take care of everyone. We are going to have the best constituent services that Colorado has ever seen. I believe that Senator Cory Gardner did a fantastic job, but we're going to do even better. And we've already got the play lined out and some great people that are coming on board who actually care about the people and want to serve them and help them. And we have experts in veteran affairs and Medicaid and Medicare. And I'm just so excited for them to come on board and take care of the people so they can redistrict me however they want. The people are going to be the ones who reelect me because they have been taken so well care of.
Tell me a little bit about the district. Where does it currently run to, and where might they send you?
Well, we're 29 of the westernmost counties. So we start a little bit past Vail, right there in like the Edwards, Avon area. And then we have Aspen, Glenwood Springs, Grand Junction. And then if you go north, we have some very red areas like Meeker, Colorado, Craig, Colorado, Rangeley, and then you get really blue when you get to Steamboat because see, all these Californians are coming in to Colorado and moving to these ski resort towns because they can afford it. And then so they're California refugees and they're bringing their policies with them. So Steamboat Springs is very blue. And then when you go back down south, we get very red again in Delta and Montrose, and then when you start getting in these resort towns again, they start to get a little more blue.
My goodness, you are the
Durango.
You're the Congresswoman from Aspen?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. Good luck to you. Keep coming back, Representative-elect Boebert. It is Lauren Boebert on Twitter. Quite the story, and you'll be the most protected restaurant in America when you eat at hers. Thank you, Lauren. I will be right back, America. 1-800-520-1234. I'm introducing you to some new members of Congress. Well, because they represent you. You ought to hear from them. Stay tuned. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Prison Fellowship. Click on the Angel Tree banner at the top of HughHewitt.com.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Do that, and the president himself is convinced that without a question, if we counted the votes accurately, he really did win. And you yourself are convinced of that. I take you very seriously.
Yeah, I'm very totally convinced of it. So here's what we need to do. The president emphasized to me that the power to assign electors, to choose the electors who actually choose the president, is vested in Article 2, Section 1, look it up yourself, of the U.S. Constitution in the state legislatures. And he said that he felt that the key need here was to mobilize the Republican leaders of these states. All of these states that are at issue are controlled by Republican state legislatures. 4 of the 5 have Democratic governors. Georgia has an anti-Trump Republican. But the point is all 5 have Republican legislatures. And he was urging me to tell people to call the speakers and majority leaders of those houses to urge them to count the votes accurately. All signatures be verified. In some states, there's a court order not to verify signatures, but the legislature can override that. Secondly, to check to make sure that all counting and recounting and auditing is done with a Republican inspector right near it at the table, watching it as it's happening. And finally, that the Trump people be given a full list of the registered voters who cast votes so that they may check that to find out who's still alive and what the deal is.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Now, mind you, while the chattering class is now calling for a cancellation of Thanksgiving, they're calling out for pseudo-Gestapo squads to go out to arrest people that are gathering on Thanksgiving. California lawmakers head to Maui with lobbyists despite pandemic and travel warnings. This is from Politico. They did a nice work of journalism here by Katie Murphy. Roughly 100 people from 4 states converged at Fairmont, Kealani for a 4-day legislative conference organized by the Independent Voter Project. The 18th annual event was a third of its regular size, but it drew 20 lawmakers from California, Texas, and Washington state. The theme, how to reopen state economies amid the public health crisis. So it's okay to go travel to Hawaii, probably on taxpayer dime, with lobbyists, but somehow at the same time we must cancel Thanksgiving. All the while, we have Governor Mussolini. I say that kiddingly. Media matters, okay? Half kiddingly, all right? Governor Mussolini was found in Napa Valley at French Laundry, no social distancing, no masks, well over the declared edict of not allowing people to have tables of over 5 to 6 people. And let's pull this picture up on screen. Looks like Governor Newsom on screen here, who he said he was outdoors. He obviously wasn't. He was with 12 people with looks like very, very expensive glasses of wine. I mean, if I could just look at a picture of what the American ruling class is, it's this picture.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. I'm reminding all of you at the top of HughHewitt.com, there is an appeal for prison fellowship. Annually, they care for hundreds of thousands of children at Christmas, buying them presents, bringing them Christmas joy, making sure that that is included in their package of gifts. A note from mom or dad who's behind bars. And there are 2.7 million children in that situation. And Prison Fellowship's Angel Tree reaches a lot of them, but they do it through the patios of America's churches primarily. People exit Sunday morning sermons and they feel lifted by the Spirit, and they say, I will give of my plenty, give of my want in some cases, and help these kids. But they can't do it this year because the patios are closed and most of the churches are on limited hours, if open at all. So it's a crisis for those children who have for years, it's been operating since 1982. Some kids have grown up as Angel Tree kids, but the money's not there unless we make up for it. So whatever you can give, please go to HughHewitt.com and click on that banner and give this morning as much as you can give. And I know I usually just say $22 takes care of a child, but really there's a huge hole in the bucket. Dear Ida, there's an enormous hole. We need your help. We really do. Head over to Angel Tree's banner at HughHewitt.com and change a child's life. Let me go back and play for you, if I can, Marching on Georgia. This is Chuck Schumer. I always play it for the people in Georgia. You got to know you are in the targets of the left-wing socialists who would run the United States Senate. Cut number one.
Now we take Georgia, and then we change the world. Yeah! I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Mr. Schumer? Now we take Georgia, and then we change America.
That is the plan for Georgia. What is Raphael Warnock? He's running for Senate against incumbent Senator Kelly Loeffler. He's a radical. He's a pastor. What's he think? Well, cut number 4 is dispositive.
America, nobody can serve God and the military. You can't
Did you hear that part? The rest is all piffle. That is the new part. He added that to the gospel. Jesus never says that. Never. And I know so many people of faith, of all different faiths in the uniform, who protect me, that have laid down their lives for me and for you. He needs to apologize. He won't even talk about it. Here's John Ossoff giving you a glimpse of what he believes. Cut number 2.
We need to send a message this year. We need to send a message that if you indulge this kind of politics, you're not just going to get beaten. You're going to get beaten so bad you can never run or show your face again in public. Because we have had enough, absolutely enough, of what we are getting from Donald Trump and his fellow travelers right now.
So I'm telling you right now, you do not, Georgia, want to miss the registration date of December 7. You got to be registered to vote. To my lefty friends who want to drive down to Georgia and register, it's a felony. You can go volunteer. You can contribute to all of the candidates you want online. You can go to the nrsc.org. You can find the Democratic Campaign Committee. You can get involved. You can go to all sorts of different websites and contribute. You can go down there and volunteer. You can volunteer from home. You cannot go there and register and vote, or you're going to go to jail. Let's go to Bentley in Tennessee. Good morning, Bentley.
Good morning.
How are you?
Pretty good. I kind of want to ask, do you think Trump will run again in 2024?
I wrote a column about that for the Washington Post. It is definitely a possibility. 4 years is a long time. It'll fly by, but it's a long time. There's a long list of people who will run if he doesn't run. It's a very short list if he does. I think there will be a Donald Trump running one way or the other, because if he doesn't, I think Donald Trump Jr. will run. But I think it depends upon health, interest, and by the way, how he leaves the stage matters a lot. That was how I wrote my column, with an eye on the future. I do not believe there is merit. I have not yet seen any allegation in a pleading form that leads me to believe there is fraud. I am willing to read any complaint. I am not going to listen to press conferences and speeches. Too many people give press conferences and speeches that Democrats and Republicans alike they write checks they cannot cash. I'm not going to believe any of it. Show me a complaint, I'll read it, and I'll weigh the allegations, and I'll wait for the evidence. But in this country, in a court of law, allegations are followed by evidence, or followed by argument, followed by judgments, followed by rulings. followed by appeals. That's what I'm looking for. Coming back with another new Congresswoman. Stay tuned. Well, actually, it's Jim Banks of Indiana. Stay tuned, America. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show. This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia." Because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff elections. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Let's go to a true expert in the field. His friends call him Fredo, and he's not happy with another medical professional called Dr. Atlas. And the question at hand is Thanksgiving. This is cut 7. I think Fredo's taken too many steroids. Play cut.
What the hell are you doing here? Yeah, it could be their last Thanksgiving. If you expose them to people who aren't wearing masks, who aren't socially distancing, and haven't been doing so, and haven't gotten tested, because they somehow think they don't want to get in on the con of COVID. You know, you want to hide on state news, you do it. But someday, you're going to have to deal with real questions. And either you're going to come on a show or you're going to do it, but you know what? We may go back to old school. And maybe the questions will come find you. Maybe when you're living your life nice and easy, because you don't have the concerns that these same people that you're telling to rise up, that they have. Maybe the questions will come and find you, because you have to answer for that kind of guidance, let alone it's a doctor.
Let me get this straight. Fredo Cuomo is, I can't say the P word, can I? Can I say the P word? Is annoyed, is angry that people compare him to a member of the mafia, the fictional mafia family, the Corleone family, and call him Fredo. That makes him angry and PO'd. But then on his show, he threatens Dr. Atlas of the president's COVID team? What does it mean? The question will come and find you. What does that mean? What, with bullets in the kneecap?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
My guest book is called COVID-19, A Physician's Take on the Exaggerated Fear of the Coronavirus. He is Dr. Jeffrey Barkey. Dr. Donald Trump recovered pretty quickly from the time that he announced that he had contracted the coronavirus. Were you surprised he bounced back so fast?
I wasn't, for a couple reasons. Number one, he was treated early with mild symptoms. Although they took him to the hospital, it probably wasn't necessary. Also, although I don't know this, I believe he was already on hydroxychloroquine, which reduces viral replication. In addition, he was on multiple supplements that work really well, and that includes things like zinc, melatonin, and vitamin C. And so I wasn't surprised, and he had world-class therapeutics at his disposal, and I think anybody would recover quickly if they're treated early with mild symptoms.
Doctor, why is hydroxychloroquine so controversial?
Because Donald Trump, way back in the day, during his press conference, made mention of it, and it's very cheap, and it's generic, and they hate Donald Trump. So immediately that drug became political to the point that pharmacies were refusing to dispense it when I'd write a prescription, and other doctors as well. And the Medical Board of California came out with a statement that said prescribing hydroxychloroquine could subject a physician to unprofessional conduct. Never in the history of my career has the Medical Board put out such a statement, especially with a drug that is not controlled, meaning it's easy to write for. You don't need a special prescription. It's been around for 65 years, and it's available over the counter in many countries, but not ours.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Here's some big picture stuff. Two things are going to remain true. Much of the country will stay convinced that this election was not legitimate, it wasn't fair, it wasn't accurate, it wasn't right. Much of the country, including those who are glad Biden supposedly won.
"33 minutes after the hour, America." A lot of you will think that I've invited Representative Jim Banks on the show this week because Ohio State's going to crush Indiana this weekend. But that's not really why. I like Jim Banks, and it's going to be embarrassing for him next week, but he'd come back. I invited him on because he's been elected the chairman of the Republican Study Group. And, Jim, welcome, Congressman. Good to have you. Sorry about what's going to happen to your Hoosiers. It's going to be ugly.
I feel pretty good about it, Hugh. It's been 50-something years since the Indiana Hoosier football team has been a top 10 team, and I feel good about their chances this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's going to be another 50 years. But enjoy it while you can. They're playing in the shoe, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah, so, gosh almighty, even without the students there, it's going to be a tough, have you watched Justin Field? Have you watched that kid?
Have you watched Michael Penix?
No, I haven't.
University football team. He's a heck of a kid, and Coach Tom Allen has given this team who would have ever thought Indiana University would be a football school? That's where we are at this point, and we'll see whatever happens on Saturday, Hugh. We're very proud of this football team, and it's a sign of what's to come for the Indiana Hoosiers.
Well, you already had your miracle this month, which is the number of Republicans elected to the House. So let's go there. My count right now is 222 to 213. I think we hold on to that New York and those Iowa seats. Are my numbers right, Congressman Banks?
That's about right. 212, 213, outside chance at 214. It's the opposite of what we thought would happen. I mean, I was with a prominent House Republican pollster and campaign official just 2 weeks before Election Day. We thought we were going to win. We thought we were going to lose 10 to 15 seats, and it was exactly the opposite.
Now that is, I put that down to Leader McCarthy, Steve Scalise, everybody in the caucus, but also Donald Trump turned out the Republican vote. I mean, he really did. Do you credit him as well, Congressman Banks?
There's no question about it. I say all the time, when Donald Trump was on the ballot in 2016 and 2020, our chances increased substantially. And that's exactly what we saw. His coattails all up and down the ballot, not just congressional seats, Hugh, but we had state legislative seats in the Republican column grow significantly as well nationwide. That's all because of Donald Trump and the excitement that he brought to our base. And that, as we have this conversation about me taking over the Republican Study Committee, the biggest conversation we need to have is how do we build upon that winning coalition, bringing the new Trump populist voters together with the traditional conservative voters, the party of Reagan, the party of Trump. We've got to merge those voters in a coalition that can win majorities in 2022 and win the White House in 2024. And I really believe Donald Trump teaches us how to do that.
You know, I've always quoted Margaret Thatcher, win the argument, then win the vote. And right now she's being badly portrayed in The Crown, but she was quite prescient when it came to how you win elections. You win the argument, then you win the vote. The RSC has traditionally been, and maybe it will return under your leadership, Congressman Banks, to be in the idea factory. Would you tell people about the RSC and what it does?
Well, it was created in 1973. It's the largest conservative caucus. Right now it's made up of about 3/4 of the entire Republican conference. So there are 199 Republicans in this Congress, and we have over 150 of them in Republican Study Committee. We meet once a week. We talk about the major issues on the floor, and you're right, we develop a conservative legislative agenda and we push it. And under the last 2 years with Mike Johnson as chairman, we really put together the conservative playbook, a massive volume of conservative bills and ideas that we want to push when we get the majority back. And the legacy issue, Hugh, for Republican Study Committee is that every single year, while Republicans here and there have lost their way on fiscal responsibility, Republican Study Committee is the group in the Congress that every single year puts out a balanced budget proposal and shows exactly how it can be done. And that's the first thing that we'll do out of the gate in January. We'll do exactly that. It's never been harder than it is right now to do that with a ballooning national debt, but we will show the American people and we will show our colleagues in Congress that you can balance the budget and bring back fiscal responsibility, and we'll show how it can be done.
No, I'm glad you're in that job because traditionally they have been the green eyeshade crowd, but you know, you're the 5 Ocean Navy guy. You know that we cannot do that at the expense of our armed services.
So that's right, and that's where we will be picking fights. I mean, with the political dynamic where it is today, and one of the very first fights, not that we're picking, but the fight that we're going to fight, Hugh, is maintaining the Trump-era defense budget. That'll be a mantra of Republican Study Committee for the next couple of years, because the socialist left, the squad, they're all for cutting across the board 10% or more of our defense budget. We can't allow them to do that and maintain military superiority worldwide and get to where we need to get with our Navy to confront the China threat. Republican Study Committee is going to lean into that fight and be the group that holds the line and says we won't support any measure that would cut the Trump-era defense budgets at all. But there are some other fights, too, that we have to fight. And right out of the gate, one of the other areas where I think conservatives need to rally around, Hugh, is saving the Hyde Amendment. I mean, Democrats have made it very clear that one of their first priorities is to eliminate Hyde. What was bipartisan just a few years ago, what Joe Biden supported just 5 years ago, is now a partisan issue. The Democrats want to do away with the Hyde Amendment altogether, and Republicans need to be the group, and the Republican Study Committee needs to be the group in the House that says we're going to do everything that it takes to maintain a law that's been on our books that prevents taxpayer funding to going toward abortion, and that'll be one of our major fights too.
Well, if the House is 222 to 213, you only need to find 5 Democrats who are pro-life. Can you? I feel like Abraham walking towards Sodom and Gomorrah. Can you find 5 Democrats that will side with you on the Hyde Amendment?
Yeah, I think that we can. I hope that we can. The bigger the squad gets, you might have seen the announcement this week where the squad announced that they grew their ranks. They went from 4 to 6 or 7. Every time that happens, you start to see the old, what we used to call the blue dog Democrats that was prominent 20 years ago. They've dwindled to a very small group in recent years. Stephanie Murphy has tried to revive it, and their ranks are growing as the squad grows. So that's the group that we can reach across the aisle and hopefully work with on common sense measures that are broadly, the Hyde Amendment, Hugh, is broadly popular with the American people. Even those who might be less pro-life than you or I recognize that our taxpayer dollars shouldn't go toward funding abortion. So those are the types of fights that we're going to fight. But I think we have to, President Trump taught us, you got to broaden the conservative agenda to appeal to the populist voter. And there are areas that conservatives need to rally around in this moment as well, like reforming Section 230 has become a new base Republican conservative issue as we defend free speech and fight back against big tech free speech censorship. That's another area for the first time that I want Republican Study Committee to wade into, another issue where I think we can have an outsized role in the upcoming Congress too.
Well, I'd like to talk to everyone on the committee about that, because I think we've got to be careful how we regulate the private sector. I'm not one of those people that want to run out and punish Twitter. I want people to grow Parler sort of thing. But let me ask you about an issue near and dear to my heart, which is redistricting. I hate the decision in 2015, Arizona State Legislature versus the Arizona Independent Redistricting Commission. And even though redistricting commissions are going to help Republicans this year in Virginia and California, they're unconstitutional in my view. That was a 5-4 decision with Anthony Kennedy in the majority. The court has changed dramatically in the 6 years since that decision, 5.5 years since it came down. Do you expect the RSC to take a hard look at getting legislators back in the state legislatures back in control of congressional districts, Congressman?
Well, we should. I was a state senator for 6 years, and I was a part of the last redistricting effort in Indiana 10 years ago. And this is an area where conservatives should be vocal, because if we believe in states' rights and we believe in the power of the states and empowering our colleagues in state legislatures, then we should recognize that they're the ones who are on the ballot. They're the ones that go before the voters in their district and who will be held accountable for how districts are drawn and avoiding gerrymandering. That's how it happened in my state, in Indiana, and we've gone at lengths to get rid of gerrymandering because of empowering the legislators in the process. So it's an area, Hugh, that I haven't given a whole lot of thought to the role that RSC can play, but you're making a very good point. It's something that we should dig into even deeper.
Yeah, I think every member of Congress has standing because this job, I don't mind gerrymandering. It just means that political considerations enter into the drawing of the line. Some people like redistricting. But in any event, the Constitution commits it clearly, as the Chief Justice wrote in dissent, to state legislatures. And I think we ought to give it back. It's in California and Virginia and Arizona and Colorado and Ohio. They've given it away to commissions, and they are not accountable. They cannot be voted out. And we have two rules: one man, one person, one vote. And we have one: you can't use race, you can't use any prohibited category to draw the lines. But I mean, standing on the Constitution, if the RSC does that, if we become the party of freedom and the party of the Constitution, you can't go wrong, Congressman.
There's no question about it. I mean, as far as the redistricting goes, Hugh, the state legislators are the ones who are ultimately accountable to the voters. When you set up these commissions, there's no accountability in the process. That should scare every American. And why, as you realize that your vote is watered down, and it's an area that conservatives should be more outspoken about.
Last question. I am not, even though Mark Meadows is a friend, Jim Jordan is a friend, I've never liked the Freedom Caucus. I think the RSC ought to be where the conservatives gather to debate. Is the Freedom Caucus going out of business?
I don't know. We incorporate the Freedom Caucus in the Republican Study Committee, and most of their members are members of RSC too. I like the way I put it is RSC is the heart and soul of the conservative movement in the House, and if RSC does this job, Hugh, there's no reason for other conservative caucuses. So that put pressure on me over the next couple of years to lead RSC in a way that I can coalesce all factions of the conservative movement together and make us more mighty in the process.
Good luck on that. I really wish you good luck on that. Representative Jim Banks, follow him on Twitter at Rep. Jim Banks. Thank you for joining me, my friend. Let me remind you, I need you at Prison Fellowship. Not me. Actually, it doesn't affect me. It does affect the children of the 2.7 million children in America who have mom or dad in jail. And I urge you, please go over to HughHewitt.com. I'm double checking to make sure it's at the very top now. If you hear me typing away, I ask that the banner go up on the very top so it's easy for the Steelers fans to find. Yep, there it is, the very top. There's no other petition up there now. All you have to do is go there and get your donation made. All I want you to do is get your donation made. And the key for you is use the online. Go there online and fill it in. They will not bother you. They will not sell your information. They're not that kind. I knew Chuck Colson personally. I've talked to him over and over again. Prison Fellowship serves these kids like nobody else does. So please be as generous as you can be. As you begin your own Christmas shopping, please go out there and dig deep on behalf of the children who don't have mom or dad or both parents with them this Christmas during a COVID year. My gosh, what a nightmare. Don't forget as well, ReliefFactor.com, great sponsor of the show. I've got an empty bag here. It's on you, Tony King. I'm going to name you. I'm going to name and shame Tony King every day because my friends want me to have this. I know the Relief Factor people want me to have the support for the temporary relief of the minor aches and pains that come with exercise. And it got cold in the Beltway this week, so I already have an excuse not to go outside. I don't need two, which is I don't have my ReliefFactor.com, but I'll get out there and do my miles. And I wish Relief Factor were along with me. 1995. People say, why don't you order? I got an order. They're just being sent to the wrong coast. ReliefFactor.com. Icarian, curcumin, or resveratrol, and omega. Those are the 4 natural supplements that make it possible. Make a resolution, by the way, before Thanksgiving. take off a couple of pounds so you can have an extra slice of pumpkin pie on Thursday next. ReliefFactor.com. Come right back. Nicole Malliotakis is another member of the new House. I want to talk to her when we return to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
My guest book is called COVID-19, A Physician's Take on the Exaggerated Fear of the Coronavirus. He is Dr. Jeffrey Barkey. Dr. Donald Trump recovered pretty quickly from the time that he announced that he had contracted the coronavirus. Were you surprised he bounced back so fast?
I wasn't, for a couple reasons. Number one, he was treated early with mild symptoms. Although they took him to the hospital, it probably wasn't necessary. Also, although I don't know this, I believe he was already on hydroxychloroquine, which reduces viral replication. In addition, he was on multiple supplements that work really well, and that includes things like zinc, melatonin, and vitamin C. And so I wasn't surprised, and he had world-class therapeutics at his disposal, and I think anybody would recover quickly if they're treated early with mild symptoms.
Doctor, why is hydroxychloroquine so controversial?
Because Donald Trump, way back in the day, during his press conference, made mention of it, and it's very cheap, and it's generic, and they hate Donald Trump. So immediately that drug became political to the point that pharmacies were refusing to dispense it when I'd write a prescription, and other doctors as well. And the Medical Board of California came out with a statement that said prescribing hydroxychloroquine could subject a physician to unprofessional conduct. Never in the history of my career has the Medical Board put out such a statement, especially with a drug that is not controlled, meaning it's easy to write for. You don't need a special prescription. It's been around for 65 years, and it's available over the counter in many countries, but not ours.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Here's some big picture stuff. Two things are going to remain true. Much of the country will stay convinced that this election was not legitimate, it wasn't fair, it wasn't accurate, it wasn't right. Much of the country, including those who are glad Biden supposedly won, are glad that there was such chaos and a nightmarish election. They're celebrating. They don't care how Trump lost. They don't care how he gets defeated. They don't care if it's an impeachment that will do it. Doesn't bother them if it's a phony Russia investigation. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's leaks from the White House and people stabbing in the back who are supposed to serve at the pleasure of the president. It doesn't matter if the media lies about polls. 17 points? Biden was going to beat Trump in Wisconsin. Look at Wisconsin.
Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. A lot of my friends, we hate the Yankees in Ohio, and they say, what good comes out of New York City? Well, let me introduce you to Representative-elect Nicole Malliotakis. She comes out of Staten Island in southern Brooklyn. Welcome, Congresswoman-elect. It's great to have you on. Tell people about yourself, because they don't know much about Staten Island. When I lived in Manhattan, I'd go over there to get away from the city, but you tell people about you.
Well, look, I represent the conservative bastion, you could say, the last one in New York City, and that is Staten Island and southern Brooklyn. I've been a member of the New York State Assembly. This is my 10th year, and I didn't seek re-election. Instead, I decided to run for Congress. I think right now is the right time for somebody like me. I'm the daughter of Greek and Cuban immigrants. My mom is a refugee from the Castro regime of 1959, fled to the United States to escape oppression. And right now, I think, is we need people with that background who understand what socialism is and what the left is trying to do to our nation. I could tell you, somebody from New York City, with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bill de Blasio in my city, I can tell you we're moving far to the left. Crime has increased. Cost of living has increased. Quality of life has decreased. And we don't want to bring those policies across the nation in the United States of America through the federal government, which is exactly what Nancy Pelosi in many ways is trying to do.
You are like one of the instant stars because you're young and you're from New York and you got a great radio voice and great presence on television. You also know when the federal government has to act. You helped your district through Sandy, right?
Yeah, Hurricane Sandy, unfortunately, in 2012, really devastated my district, and we worked really through the city to get those federal FEMA funds and get those federal monies from HUD to the district to help rebuild our community. That was, you want to talk about bureaucracy. I mean, helping my constituents navigate that bureaucracy was very difficult, but we helped hundreds, if not thousands, of families recover during that time, which was one of the most difficult. It was actually my freshman term in the assembly, and that is where I really built a real foundation, a relationship with my constituency, which was able to overcome the $20 million that Nancy Pelosi put against me.
Now,
because they knew me.
Congresswoman-elect Malliotakis, I'd pay money to watch you and AOC debate. Now, I think she's very charismatic. I don't know how deep her knowledge goes. She says progressive, she means socialism. You are obviously the child of someone who had to run like hell from socialism/communism. Have you ever had a chance to debate AOC? Will she accept that challenge? Because 10 years in the state assembly, you're going to know your stuff.
Well, look, what I'll say is, and no, I have not, but I did debate Bill de Blasio, which is kind of similar. But what I'll say is I welcome the opportunity to really debate these issues because no doubt is freedom and liberty and opportunity and preserving the American dream for future generations much better than anything that she's proposing. And what's scary to me is when you look at what's happening in Georgia, like if they take that Senate, think about the power they will have to fundamentally change this country. I'm not just talking about like socialized medicine, the Green New Deal, and stuff that is disastrous to not only our economy but to people's livelihoods but what I'm talking about is stacking the court and changing election laws, getting rid of voter IDs and implementing same-day voter registration where boards of elections don't have the opportunity to verify voters actually live in the district or are eligible citizens to vote. These are the things that will fundamentally change our nation, and then from there they have the power to really destroy fundamentally our nation, our economy, everything that they want to do. Because once you do that, and in fact the court is just so dangerous. So that's why we need to be vigilant and make sure we win those seats in Georgia, at least, because remember what she said. She wants to win those seats for the Democrats so they don't have to negotiate with Republicans anymore, and she could shove their agenda down our throat. That's,
3 times a day. 3 times a day I play this. Cut number 1.
Now we take Georgia, and then we change the world. Yeah! I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Mr. Schumer? Now we take Georgia, and then we change America.
So, Congresswoman Malliotakis, that's your fellow New Yorker, Chuck Schumer. Are they going to come after you in redistricting because you're on to their gig?
Well, look, I got to tell you, and I've known Senator Schumer for a long time, just as a senator in my state, and what he's doing is really moving far to the left to kowtow to people in the fringe-based element. And that's the problem with the Democratic Party. I don't believe that he really believes the stuff that he says sometimes. I think that he's just moving along to the left because he's afraid of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And if the Democrats didn't learn anything from this cycle, if they learned anything from this cycle, it should have been that we need to stop them because they're making us lose seats. It was 27 toss-up seats. Republicans won all 27 of them. That's because the Democrats have decided they were going to go that far radical to the left and start talking about defunding the police, talking about abolishing ICE, talking about stacking the court and changing this and election laws and socialized medicine. That's why they lost all those seats. So they should learn from that experience and actually fight back with us against the actual socialist squad.
I hope you lead that fight, Representative-elect Nicole Malliotakis. Her Twitter handle is NM as in Mary, ALLIOTAKIS. I've tweeted it out. Make sure you follow her. She'll be back here a lot. Are you a Yankees or a Mets fan, Congresswoman-elect?
I'm a Yankees fan.
Oh, gosh, we'll get over that. Oh, there are some things we'll have to overlook. Well, you're welcome here anytime. Thank you for joining us. Coming up, Dr. Larry Arnn of Hillsdale College, America. Stay tuned. Churchill in defeat. We'll hear about that next on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
The situation in each state is a little different. In Arizona, they are simply refusing to have a recount, and that's outrageous. The law says you're only entitled to a mandatory recount if you lost by fewer than 500 votes. And that's designed for dog catcher elections. But for president in a state that casts through 3 million votes, you're not going to have a 500 vote margin. In Georgia, they're having a recount, but the inspectors are 40 feet away. There's no way the Republican can see them doing this recount, much less check the ballot.
What is that? What kind of a joke is that? I mean, I don't really even understand.
Democrats being partisan. It's the election.
It's called cheating, Dick. It's called cheating. How do you? How is that possible? How can the lawyers? How can this be possible that they would allow? Well, it's obviously cheating.
I think Trump's people were asleep at the switch and should have been there in these polling places protesting. Certainly the recount. During the recount, they were protesting, but they were not listened to. Also in Georgia, I think I said earlier, but let me repeat, there were 200 people between the ages of 105 and 110 who voted. There were 2,000 people over the age of 100 who were supposed to have voted. And there were 27,000 people over the age of 90, between 90 and 100, who were said to have voted. And I wish everybody health in Georgia, but somehow I don't think all those people actually voted.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Newt Gingrich said that if the absentee ballot requests and the absentee ballot submissions were done based on previous precedent, President Trump would have won the state by 40,000 votes. Officials in Fayette County unearthed 2,755 ballots that have not been included in the original count. 1,500 of them went for Trump, 1,100 for Biden. So that's a 400 vote gain for President Trump. The audit of votes in the presidential race also revealed missing votes in Walton County. 284 ballots were added from the between precinct. They netted 176 votes for President Trump. And Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger's office cited human error and gross negligence in 2,600 missing votes in Floyd County. He called for the Floyd County election manager to resign. And now a Republican election monitor discovered 9,626 vote error in the DeKalb County hand recount. One batch was labeled 10,707 for Biden and 13 for Trump, an improbable margin even by DeKalb standards, when in reality, the actual count of the batch was 1,081 for Biden and 13 for Trump. To give you an idea, the Biden margin for error in this batch of votes was 99.9%. To give you an idea, Bashar al-Assad, when he ran in 2007, his margin was 97.6%. Raul Castro in 2008, 99.4%. But it did match Kim Jong-il's 2009 margin, 99.9%.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia," because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff elections. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
So the intimidation, the fear of violence, the increase of violence we have witnessed across America for the last 10 months, that's what should make us happy? That we maybe dodged even more violence? Is that how America was founded? Is that how the Boston Tea Party occurred? That those who try to intimidate us succeed, and we see that as the silver lining? My friend's friend said, well, you know, if he takes the White House, at least now we'll have time that all of these things have been uncovered to fix them. And again, resisting my wife's blandishments to behave, I said, what? The Democrats are going to fix it? If Biden steals the election and he's in the White House, and they have the House of Representatives and potentially the Senate, if they can steal the Georgia runoffs as well, oh, that's when the Democrats fix things? That will be the conclusion they drew, that, oh, we stole this election. So now, let's make it harder for us to steal the next one. What planet are these people living on?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
I am talking to Dr. Jeffrey Barkey. The book is called COVID-19, A Physician's Take on the Exaggerated Fear of the Coronavirus. The treatment that President got was obviously Cadillac treatment. Had Joe Schmo contracted the coronavirus around the same time the president did, same age, same comorbidities, would he or she have gotten the same kind of treatment?
No, not for early mild symptoms. So remdesivir, which is one of the treatments that President Trump got, is only available if you're hospitalized. So by definition, those are very sick patients. And that's the wrong time to use it, although certainly it's available and it can be effective. The best time to use any intervention is in the early mild stages. So think of it this way. Imagine if we told a woman who came down with breast cancer just to stay at home and go about their lives and come back only if the breast cancer gets worse or spread. You'd be considered unprofessional and crazy, but yet that's what we're currently doing with COVID.
Tell us about immune systems matter.
Well, they do, yet here we are slathering up in hand sanitizer and every other possible anti-bacterial, antiviral component. We have robust immune systems that God gave us for a reason, and that's to protect us. So as soon as we stop allowing our immune systems to function by wearing a mask everywhere we go, by slathering ourselves with hand sanitizer and other antimicrobials, we're actually causing problems. We're hurting ourselves. We lock people up in their homes, especially kids. We don't allow them to get exposed to the world. And then when their immune system is finally challenged, they're in a weakened state and they can't mount an immune response the way they should be able to.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
Glory America, bonjour, hi America, it's Hugh Hewitt. It's the last radio hour of the week. I even put on a tie and a coat for this because Dr. Larry Arnn is my guest, president of Hillsdale College. It's the Hillsdale Dialogue once a week. We try and put aside details and go big and go back sometimes, way back. This week, we're only going back 2 weeks to an election that disappointed millions of my listeners, disappointed me. I voted for the president. Looks like President Biden is going to be president-elect very soon. Let me begin, Dr. Arnn, by asking you, Hillsdale College is nonpartisan, but you do have a fairly center-right and very educated student body. How's the mood been around the college these last 2 weeks?
Well, it's, first of all, the governor has shut down in-person classes. The mood is angry, and we're all angry. And we don't think there's any good reason for it. If you can read, you know that there's 250,000 college students who've contracted this. This is about 10 days old. In the New York Times, I'd love to quote them. 3 have died of 250,000, and those 3 had serious pre-existing conditions. So it's actually much less dangerous to college students than the ordinary flu. And so isolating them, disrupts their education. And the theory of their doing it is that if a lot of people have it, it will get in the nursing homes and it cannot be stopped. Well, that might be true, but where are the efforts to make sure of that? Why, if you have strict protocols, you can certainly diminish the number of people who get it around elderly people and sick people. And instead of that, we're shutting down the whole society, and that has ancillary costs all over the place, including in the case of college students, they need to be going to class. We're trying to finish this semester here.
Dr. Arnn, I got to ask you, Justice Alito gave a speech. It was a very important speech about fundamental freedoms in the age of a pandemic. Now, help is on the way with the vaccines, and I understand making sure that the elderly and the fragile are protected. But I believe there is a right to assembly, right? There is a right to assembly, and there is a right to free speech, and there is a right to practice religion. And government at every level must pass the most stringent of tests. There must be no alternative available to what they have done when they impose upon a fundamental right that way. Is the college considering suing the governor because she is indeed interfering with, and that doesn't mean it's unconstitutional, it just means it's an open question. She's interfering with a number of your students' First Amendment rights. Have you considered suing her?
Yeah, that's right. We have twice now, and we haven't sued her, but we're thinking about that right now. This order came last Sunday night, and it's on so it went into effect on Wednesday. So Thursday, we have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Thanksgiving break. And so we're losing about 10 days in this term. She says it's 3 weeks. The rumors in Lansing are that she's going to extend it for 3 weeks, twice more, which would, interesting enough, take it up to the day before the inauguration. And if she does that, then it will cut into the spring term, and we will certainly exhaust every legal option to stop that.
Now, Dr. Arnn, I actually know what I'm talking about here. This is going to surprise you. I have been teaching the free speech cases and the right of assembly cases for 25 years. When you are imposing on a fundamental right, you must prove that you are using the least intrusive method possible to achieve your end, and that there is no alternative, and that the government is reaping a significant benefit by doing that. I do not see how, I honestly do not see how a ban on college classes in person serves the objective she has articulated. I don't see how she wins that.
Yeah, see, there's a whole alternative plan. The great Barrington Declaration and the 3 great epidemiologists, one of them is Jay Bhattacharya from Stanford, that's in the current imprimis. People should read it. They claim, first of all, that focused protection, that is to say, all of this massive effort that we've done, it should be devoted to protecting people who are vulnerable, and those are identified now. Being old is not enough. You need to have, respiratory disease. There's a list about 5 or 6 things, and if you get this, it's likely to kill you. And there are random deaths, too. But if you take out the deaths in nursing homes in the country, you cut the deaths by 40%. And so there's a whole plan there. And then they go on to say that by doing it this way, we are putting the burden of gaining immunity to this disease on the vulnerable equally with the not invulnerable, whereas the invulnerable ought to carry it, right? I mean, we've had 40 college students get it, and we had one of them who was sick for 3 days. He's the sickest, and he's in my class this term. And the rest of them, most of them, wonder if they had it. And that's the typical experience. It is a bad disease, by the way. But another thing to understand is this is not unprecedented, right? The 1918 thing was, pandemic was massively worse, and that was a real live disaster. 57, 58, there was a bad one. 68, there was a bad one. The death counts are higher from this one now, but not a lot higher.
Oh, I just believe that what Alito was articulating is a fundamental fact about America. Our Constitution is designed to stop government from taking away liberties absent a pressing need that they've got to show, a benefit that they've got to defend, and the least restrictive means must be employed even if 1 and 2 are met. And I just do not believe the governor of Michigan and others are employing the least restrictive means possible. It's mind-bogglingly stupid, if you ask me, as a con law professor. And I'm sure she's got lawyers who tell her she can do this, but they can only do it until a court tells them they can't. And so,
one suspects partisan reasons for this, right? Because the policies in the blue states are very different from the policies in the red states. And in the blue states, and you look at the battleground states, rallies were suppressed, and that's a main tool of one of the people running for president, and he couldn't hold them. And he did them on the borders of those states. And he went to states where where they would let you do things. Well, that's interfering with the functioning of the electoral process, which is the heart of the constitutional system. So you need really good reasons for doing that. And we don't have them.
We don't have them. No, I asked you to come today prepared to talk about a unique election, not the one we just had, but the one that was held in Great Britain in 1945, because it has always mystified me. And let's take 2 minutes now and a couple of minutes after the break. Would you describe that election so that we can then discuss it?
So Winston Churchill became Prime Minister of Great Britain on the 10th of May, 1940. And in the course of the following 18 months, he became the greatest man in the world. And I mean, everybody treated him like that. He was more famous than Joe Stalin and Franklin Roosevelt put together. And they even looked at him that way themselves, wrote things that implied that they understood that. So then the war drags on, of course, for a long time. And then against all hope in the beginning, the good guys won. So it gets to be 1945. Germany surrendered on May the 5th, 1945. Japan would eventually surrender on August 15th, I think. Churchill wanted to hold the government together until the surrender of Japan, but the Labour Party socialist opposition leader, Clement Attlee, said, no, we got to have an election. Attlee had been deputy prime minister in the Churchill regime, in the Churchill administration of the Second World War. Attlee was a war hero, as were many of the other labor leaders. They had the election on July the 5th, but the votes could not be counted until July the 26th because many votes had to come in from abroad, troops abroad, for example, but others too. And so there's this period where they vote and nobody knows who won. And then the last conference of the big three of Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill was held in Potsdam, starting on July 22nd, I think. I may have these dates a little wrong. And so both Churchill and Attlee went, and they both participated in the first half. But then they adjourned the meeting. They went home, and they found out that Churchill got buried in a landslide.
When we come back, we're going to talk about buried in a landslide, one of the most astonishing results ever. Dr. Larry Arnn is my guest. Everything Hillsdale available at hillsdale.edu. Stay tuned, America. Stay tuned.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Prison Fellowship. Click on the Angel Tree banner at the top of HughHewitt.com.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
So the intimidation, the fear of violence, the increase of violence we have witnessed across America for the last 10 months, that's what should make us happy? That we maybe dodged even more violence? Is that how America was founded? Is that how the Boston Tea Party occurred? That those who try to intimidate us succeed, and we see that as the silver lining? My friend's friend said, well, you know, if he takes the White House, at least now we'll have time that all of these things have been uncovered to fix them. And again, resisting my wife's blandishments to behave, I said, what? The Democrats are going to fix it? If Biden steals the election and he's in the White House, and they have the House of Representatives and potentially the Senate, if they can steal the Georgia runoffs as well, oh, that's when the Democrats fix things? That will be the conclusion they drew, that, oh, we stole this election. So now, let's make it harder for us to steal the next one. What planet are these people living on?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
I am talking to Dr. Jeffrey Barkey. The book is called COVID-19, A Physician's Take on the Exaggerated Fear of the Coronavirus. The treatment that President got was obviously Cadillac treatment. Had Joe Schmo contracted the coronavirus around the same time the president did, same age, same comorbidities, would he or she have gotten the same kind of treatment?
No, not for early mild symptoms. So remdesivir, which is one of the treatments that President Trump got, is only available if you're hospitalized. So by definition, those are very sick patients. And that's the wrong time to use it, although certainly it's available and it can be effective. The best time to use any intervention is in the early mild stages. So think of it this way. Imagine if we told a woman who came down with breast cancer just to stay at home and go about their lives and come back only if the breast cancer gets worse or spread. You'd be considered unprofessional and crazy, but yet that's what we're currently doing with COVID.
Tell us about immune systems matter.
Well, they do, yet here we are slathering up in hand sanitizer and every other possible antibacterial, antiviral component. We have robust immune systems that God gave us for a reason, and that's to protect us. So as soon as we stop allowing our immune systems to function by wearing a mask everywhere we go, by slathering ourselves with hand sanitizer and other antimicrobials, we're actually causing problems. We're hurting ourselves. We lock people up in their homes, especially kids. We don't allow them to get exposed to the world. And then when their immune system is finally challenged, they're in a weakened state and they can't mount an immune response the way they should be able to.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Sean Hannity put it best last night on Fox News. What the hell is happening in Georgia? Once again, almost 3,000 uncounted votes in Georgia discovered, which of course immediately makes one worry about the hugely important Senate runoffs that are coming up January 5th. with Republicans David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler squaring off against the radical Democrats who want to be part of the reason that the Democrats control the entire
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. The Hillsdale Dialogue is underway. The last radio hour of the week. Everything Hillsdale is collected at hillsdale.edu. You can sign up for Imprimis, which Dr. Arnn, the president of Hillsdale College, is my guest today, referenced in the last segment. It's a free monthly speech digest delivered to you the old-fashioned way, in print and ink and paper, to your mailbox. And you can go and do that for free at hillsdale.edu, and you can watch all the online courses. Indeed, I imagine the traffic is enormous given the number of people who are learning remotely in this season of American life. Dr. Arnn, we went to break. Winston Churchill returns with Clement Attlee to the results of an election, and he lost in a landslide, having beaten Hitler and on his way to beating Tojo. What happened?
Well, Churchill, he said a lot about that, both public and private. There's one very gloomy thing that he said about in private to his friend Duff Cooper, a member of his administration. Alfred Duff Cooper was his name. He wrote that it was disconcerting, he said, because soldiers seemed to have voted sometimes on the promise of more cigarettes, and overwhelmingly on the chance they thought that labor would bring them home sooner, and that in some constituencies, conscientious objectors won over proven war heroes. And that was, because first of all, that was devastating to Churchill. He was the greatest man in the world. He soon found out he was still the greatest man in the world. Just his party was not the greatest party in the world. He won by his biggest majority ever. And he was like, he would get 30,000 people come to hear him speak. It soon unfolded after this, but gosh, he was crushed. Now his final account of it, and the one that's truer than the one he said, that's the hurt of a great man, is that Britain had paid in blood for this war, that it had sacrificed longer than anybody, that it was the responsibility of the Conservative Party, who's been in control since 1935, and that the people were worn out, and they had, the most amazing things had been asked of them, and they were exhausted. And so he sympathized with them. And, you'll never find a case where Churchill turns against the people. Now the Labour Party has this overwhelming majority, and they have promised to socialize major industries, which they proceeded then to do, 9 of them. And so there's a kind of, you can go to school about how to be in the opposition in this time. Because first of all, Churchill and Attlee had worked very closely together, and they had great respect for each other. When Churchill died, you should read what Attlee wrote about him, that he was the greatest member of Parliament in history. And so they had huge respect for each other, and then they fought like cats and dogs in a certain way. Churchill had said during the election that you couldn't socialize the country. Eventually, it would lead to the use of a secret police, a Gestapo. And he never retracted that. He said things like that. He had been saying them for 30 years, and he kept saying them. Meanwhile, he watches all this happen, and, he first says to the people, we've taken a beating here. His people, to the Conservative Party in the Parliament, he said, they have won an election promising to do something. Let me first stop and say, the American situation is very different, because for what does Joe Biden, if he's installed president, have a mandate? His platform says one thing, he said other things, and the people are not, I predict, going to give him the Congress, right? So it's a different situation here. But it's still true, though, that if there are things within his powers, the powers of the president, that he ran consistently on, and the people voted for him, and if it turns out that they did vote for him, then you can't obstruct that. He's going to do it.
I will be right back with Dr. Larry Arnn, the Hillsdale Dialogue this week. We're going to talk about the hurt of a great man, Churchill in defeat in 1945. Stay tuned, America.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Prison Fellowship. Click on the Angel Tree banner at the top of HughHewitt.com.
U.S. government. Here was Sean last night.
Now, breaking moments ago, the state of Georgia's hand recount magically, how many days after Election Day, uncovered yet another 2,700 uncounted ballots, the majority of which, shockingly cast for President Trump. Last night, same story, another 2,600 uncounted ballots were discovered, and again, most of those ballots in favor of the president. What the hell's happening in Georgia and in our country? You know, why are we still finding thousands of ballots weeks after the election?
Well, it's happening because this election is a mess, and everybody knows it's a mess, from the pollsters and the pundits who predicted that Biden would crush Donald Trump, to all of the victories for Republicans down ballot. And make no mistake, Republicans crushed it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Republicans should be on to Georgia. Bill Belichick, coach of the New England Patriots, had a line from his most famous news conference ever. After a 41-14 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in 2014, Belichick answered question after question with, "We're on to Cincinnati." After Joe Biden's victory was declared by media organizations on Saturday, the mantra of Republicans for the next 2 months should be, "We are on to Georgia," because on January 5, Georgians will decide 2 United States Senate seats in runoff elections. The course of the nation over the next 2 years is in the balance. If Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win, Americans will have divided government and compromise. If left-wing, indeed radical Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win, the nation will see Supreme Court packing, cuts in the military spending, and socialized medicine. If Trump wants a comeback in 2024, it starts in the Peach State on January 5. We're on to Georgia.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager
Show. Take a risk in saying this, but it'll be very hard to be optimistic if the left gets control of the Senate, the House, and the presidency.
Well, they'll have absolute free reign, and also that makes massive changes to the direction of this country and drive us towards socialism and a permanent Democrat majority. You know what they'll be doing, right? Not only is it the Green New Deal, the $15 minimum wage, the gradual takeover of the healthcare system, it's court packing, it's, statehood for D.C. and Puerto Rico. I mean, it's everything that we fear could happen. But we have to make sure that conservatives get out there and vote early. If I were a Democrat, I'd say vote often, but we only vote once. But truly, December 14th, we got to.
Why is it advantageous to vote early?
Well, because the other option in some cases is the mail-in ballots. It's Christmas time. It's it's New Year's. People are going to be on vacation, Dennis, and that's my biggest concern.
So it's to ensure that people vote.
Yes.
Okay,
on our
fine.
side,
All right.
I want to make sure. And Dennis, I don't want to get into the whole mail-in ballot thing again, right? And if our side just kind of leans on that and resorts to that, we're just going to have issues yet again. So we got to get our folks out.
All right. So let me address that issue. Are the Republicans doing anything to ensure a fair election?
Well, there's a lot going on the election integrity. Obviously now with the recount and everything that's going on, there's a lot of focus on that. But every day there seems to be more information that's coming out on election integrity, and especially on the mail-in ballot issue.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Do that, and the president himself is convinced that without a question, if we counted the votes accurately, he really did win. And you yourself are convinced of that. I take you very seriously.
Yeah, I'm very totally convinced of it. So here's what we need to do. The president emphasized to me that the power to assign electors, to choose the electors who actually choose the president, is vested in Article 2, Section 1, look it up yourself, of the U.S. Constitution in the state legislatures. And he said that he felt that the key need here was to mobilize the Republican leaders of these states. All of these states that are at issue are controlled by Republican state legislatures. 4 of the 5 have Democratic governors. Georgia has an anti-Trump Republican. But the point is, all 5 have Republican legislatures. And he was urging me to tell people to call the speakers and majority leaders of those houses.
Welcome back, Americans. Hugh Hewitt, a special Hillsdale Dialogue this week with my friend, Dr. Larry Arnn, president of Hillsdale College. Before I go back to Churchill for a moment, Dr. Arnn, you and I have been friends and colleagues since 1989. And there is a person who we both know pretty well by the name of McCarthy. And Kevin McCarthy was this fellow running around with the BIA when you were running the Claremont Institute, and I was trying to figure out how to drive around California, who did pretty well in this cycle, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. One of my students is a senior person on his staff, and I hear first of all, we both know Kevin McCarthy very well. And the deal about him is he's a fighter, and I understand that he was heartsick about the loss of the House in 2018, that we didn't fight a good fight. And boy, this time did he not really fight a great fight. And that's his, he was like that in the California legislature too. He's very good at, he's got his spirit rises at the chance to go tell people why they should vote for his party. And gosh, they did that just wonderfully. And also the blocking and tackling, good candidates win more often than bad ones. So
yes,
he went and found a lot of good people to run.
I talked yesterday with Lisa McCarthy, I believe, the new Michigan Congresswoman from the 10th District, which is where I ran my first 10K and first marathon. She's a crackerjack. I mean, she's just terrific. And I talked with the new Congresswoman from Hilton Head Island in Charleston. She's crackerjack. She's terrific. McCarthy was out there recruiting for 2 years, and he's going to do it again because he wants to be speaker. I mean, he has ambition.
I think he might be too. I just rejoiced when he got that job, and thought, he was very shrewd about and insightful is what he was about the advent of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is a very large subject. You've got to. We'll be talking about that guy for a long time, and I even have some faint hope that he's going to be the president again, because what did he do? He just shook things up in the most amazing way, and he found enormous constituencies that had not been available to the Republicans. Well, the Republicans divided into 2 groups, when he showed up on the scene. And one of them didn't, he's rude and he's getting us in trouble on race. And gosh, what are we doing? Does he really mean it about immigration, even if we've said it ourselves? There was a lot of that. There still is some of that. McCarthy just said, I talked to him one time, and he and I had the same first observation. And it was, you're the cause of me having it. You made me watch a Trump rally one night in August of 2015. I didn't even want to watch it. And I looked at that, and I looked at they panned the crowd, and I looked at my wife, and I said, there's our nominee.
Well, we're back in Switzerland because he may or may not run in 2024, and I will remain neutral. But I will say this. President Trump got a higher percentage of the African-American male vote than any Republican in my lifetime. I believe that is a correct statement.
Yeah.
Ike may have done better, and I guess Ike was, I guess he ran when I was not yet one, so I'd have to check that. But he had a huge African-American male a vote compared to W. and John McCain and Bob Dole and even, I believe, President Reagan. Let me go back to something you said in the last segment, Dr. Arnn. When Winston Churchill faced defeat in 1945, having won the world for freedom, you said he suffered the hurt of a great man. Would you expand on that?
Well, the relationship that Churchill had with the British people was unique. He was the voice and the face of their determination, and his speeches on the radio were, extremely popular to the extent that we know approval ratings, which we do know some. They never got below 80%, and he did marvels. And there was a terrible strain, because if you watch the movie Darkest Hour, you can see what the decisions that he helped to make and persuade his colleagues to make, and they were risky. And then they came through, right? And there was victory. And then the people turned him out. So he went off to Switzerland with his daughter, took one of his daughters. They always cheered him up. And he went to paint, went to a pretty place, and he painted, and and he was muttering to himself. And then he walked out of a restaurant on a sidewalk, and a bunch of Italian girls came rushing up, asking for his autograph. And that his daughter Sarah writes that that helped cheer up Papa. And I think what it meant was, he understood that his life was not over. He understood that, this is a little signal to him. And then the way he was treated by the people in his party, because, you're in trouble when you're a prime minister and you take a drubbing, and usually your party throws you out and gets somebody else. Well, they just couldn't do that with him. Didn't want to. And Leo Amory, who's an old friend of his, commented, well, they're impatient with him, and they think that maybe he's too old to be a great leader now. But on the other hand, he's Churchill.
He's Churchill. There are two stories I never tire of hearing. One is the reaction of George III when Washington retires to Mount Vernon, and the other is upon Churchill's decision to exit number 10, that week?
You mean after his defeat?
Yes.
Oh yeah. He cleared right out, and he his first statement was, and see, we could do with more of this, by the way. His first statement was, "The people have spoken, and I am their servant." And then he left, and see, that's it just was. And another thing about it is this election is ambiguous. There's a bunch of weird stuff in it. And there's some lawsuits pending that may prove some weird stuff. But that election, labor just swamped him. And he saw the significance of that. And what he did, by the way, was he redoubled his efforts, and it took until 1951. There were two elections in 50 and 51, and you could see that what happened was, so they're socializing all these industries. And then, wonder of wonders, it doesn't go very well. The service is not good. It's expensive. Things cost more. People don't have any money. The Germans got rid of war rationing 2 years before the British did. so you think Winston Churchill didn't have a field day with that in the House of Commons?
The American people are right now binge watching The Crown season 4. I mean, binge watching, and they have not done a very good job by Margaret Thatcher, in my view. They have made her less wonderful than she is. I don't know if you've seen any of it yet.
I can't bear it.
Yeah, they have communicated Iron Lady, but they have not communicated the fact that she led her party decisively in a way that gained great acclaim and changed Great Britain forever. And do you agree with me on that? Did you see any of it?
No, I can't. I turned against the first season because they just butchered Winston Churchill so bad.
Yes, they did.
And then it turned into kind of scandal sheet inside the royal family stuff. The Duke of Edinburgh, with a straying eye and stuff like that, and it's writing about the inner workings of the royal family is a license to steal because the information is not there.
You know what? They've done well by one person, Elizabeth.
That's what we're doing.
That's what they're doing. They're doing one very well by Elizabeth. And in fact, I read a review this week that said the picture of Charles is devastating yet sympathetic. He must hate. Everybody will hate it except Elizabeth because she is emerging as a regal constitutional monarch ought to, which is even-handed and fair and quiet and keeping her opinions to herself. But they did not do well by Churchill, and they are doing terribly by Margaret Thatcher. And you knew Margaret Thatcher. And what I'm trying to explain to people, I only know her from a distance. I never met her. I saw her in a room at the California Club give a speech, and I was mesmerized. But they are not making her anywhere near the charismatic whirlwind that she was.
Yeah, well, her, first of all, she was, I did, because of weird things that happened in my life, I knew her pretty well. And, I had dinner and lunch with her several times. And I visited her several times after she retired. And then she really had time to talk. Well, first of all, she was a woman of very deep conviction expressed in a loving way. Things she learned from her mother and her father were important to her, and she used those in her speeches all the time. And it's certainly true of her that, when she heard gunfire, she turned and faced the enemy. And that, she wasn't.
Hold that thought. They did not spend enough time on the Falklands, that's for sure, because that was quite the decisive moment. Stand tuned, America. I'll be right back with more Dr. Larry Arnn on the Hillsdale Dialogue. Before I go, though, let me remind you about Angel Tree Prison Fellowship's ministry to the children of the incarcerated. There are 2.7 million children, and think about them in 2020. It's a tough lot no matter what year it is. You're 6, you're 7, you're 4, you're 8. You're in those years where mom or dad really matter and Christmas is everything. Those years when you start thinking about it now. And I'm telling you about it early this year because there are no patio tables with Angel Tree appeals where people normally give to Angel Tree so that Prison Fellowship can take those donations, match them with an inmate, a mom or dad who's nearby. They always connect the local church with the family, and then deliver presents from your donations along with a note from that parent to those children. So if you could on this Friday, please be as generous as you can. Please dig as deep as you can. I always tell you, $22 takes care of one child. Maybe that's all you can do. But if you can do a lot more, that would be appreciated. 500, 200, 100, maybe 4 figures. Look, you're bringing Christmas to children who otherwise don't get it. They simply don't get it. And their life is tough as it is. Prison Fellowship intervenes to change the lives of many of these children every year, but never more joyfully than at Christmas through the Angel Tree Fellowship. The banner is at the top of HughHewitt.com. Just go to HughHewitt.com, go all the way to the top, and you'll see the Angel Tree banner for Prison Fellowship. And thank you. Don't forget as well, ReliefFactor.com. I wish it would work on my throat this morning. I'm running out of gas. End of the week, it always happens on Friday. But a long, good set of walks ahead because, and some trundling tomorrow. I think the weather has turned in D.C., so it's no longer freezing out there. That means I'll be out in the byways and highways of the Beltway. Beautiful November weather, getting ready for Thanksgiving. All of the demonstrators of both sides have left. Everybody is calming down because everybody enjoys Thanksgiving, even in a year of controversy and chaos, and even in a year of the virus. We'll be thankful for the vaccine. We'll be thankful for family and friends that can't be with us. We'll be thankful for a lot of things, but I'll remember every one of them as I'm out walking and running, as you will. And whether or not you're at home lifting weights or out running and jogging, don't forget relieffactor.com. $19.95 gets you started. Come right back for more of the final segment of Dr. Larry Arnn and the Hillsdale Dialogue right here on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
I am talking to Dr. Jeffrey Barkey. The book is called COVID-19, A Physician's Take on the Exaggerated Fear of the Coronavirus. The treatment that President got was obviously Cadillac treatment. Had Joe Schmo contracted the coronavirus around the same time the president did, same age, same comorbidities, would he or she have gotten the same kind of treatment?
No, not for early mild symptoms. So remdesivir, which was one of the treatments that President Trump got, is only available if you're hospitalized. So by definition, those are very sick patients. And that's the wrong time to use it, although certainly it's available and it can be effective. The best time to use any intervention is in the early mild stages. So think of it this way. Imagine if we told a woman who came down with breast cancer just to stay at home and go about their lives and come back only if the breast cancer gets worse or spread. You'd be considered unprofessional and crazy, but yet that's what we're currently doing with COVID.
Tell us about immune systems matter.
Well, they do, yet here we are slathering up in hand sanitizer and every other possible anti-bacterial, antiviral component. We have robust immune systems that God gave us for a reason, and that's to protect us. So as soon as we stop allowing our immune systems to function by wearing a mask everywhere we go, by slathering ourselves with hand sanitizer and other antimicrobials, we're actually causing problems. We're hurting ourselves. We lock people up in their homes, especially kids. We don't allow them to get exposed to the world. And then when their immune system is finally challenged, they're in a weakened state and they can't mount an immune response the way they should be able to.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Sean Hannity put it best last night on Fox News. What the hell is happening in Georgia? Once again, almost 3,000 uncounted votes in Georgia discovered, which of course immediately makes one worry about the hugely important Senate runoffs that are coming up January 5th. With Republicans David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler squaring off against the radical Democrats who want to be part of the reason that the Democrats control the entire U.S. government. Here was Sean last night.
Now, breaking moments ago, the state of Georgia's hand recount magically, how many days after Election Day, uncovered yet another 2,700 uncounted ballots, the majority of which, shockingly cast for President Trump. Last night, same story, another 2,600 uncounted ballots were discovered, and again, most of those ballots in favor of the president. What the hell's happening in Georgia and in our country? You know, why are
Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt talking. Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt talking to Dr. Larry Arnn. The Hillsdale Dialogue is in it's coming towards a stretch here, and the key part of this is how to be the opposition. When you have lost and you haven't expected it, and Churchill lost in 1945 and he didn't expect it, you have a choice on how to govern in the opposition, and Churchill was, as Dr. Arnn said, the leader of the opposition. How did he carry on that opposition, Dr. Arnn? Because I think it's important, especially for the Republicans, to hear this.
Well, one thing he did was, Churchill believed that the alternation in power was inevitable. He also believed, and it's very parallel to this situation, that the opposition would uproot the British Constitution. And so that meant that he fought them fiercely. On the other hand, he recognized the constitutional forms that had put them in office. So it was a handy thing. There was a huge thing, an extremely important thing, which was international relations and policy toward the threatening Soviet Union, which emerged as the strongest power after the Second World War. What are we going to do about that? Well, the foreign minister in the Attlee government was a man named Ernest Bevin. And Ernest Bevin was a very left-wing shop steward and labor organizer. And Churchill had dealings with him because of labor disputes that the government got involved in. And he found out that this guy was very tough and that he was both anti-Nazi and anti-communist. And Winston Churchill himself brought him into British government during the Second World War and gave him a cabinet position. And so he was, on the left of the Labour Party, and yet he was loyal to Britain and opposed to her enemies abroad. And so Churchill agreed with the foreign policy, by and large, of the Attlee administration. And that set Churchill up, by the way, to give the great Iron Curtain speech in Fulton, Missouri in 1946, where he made the sort of great international statement that signaled the beginning of the Cold War. And if he had had a British government back at home that was going to chop him up about that, that would have deflated the thing. And, it's an interesting thing. If he'd won the election, he would not have been able to give that speech himself, because you couldn't say the things in that speech as the policy of the British government, because it would have to be worked out in advance with the United States. And see, Harry Truman, cagey guy that he was, he understood that Churchill was the greatest man in the world. And so Churchill gets this note from the president of Westminster College, but please come and talk. And there's a P.S. on the bottom, nice college in my home state, I will introduce you, Harry Truman. You see? Well, Clement Attlee and Winston Churchill worked that out together.
Oh, my.
Harry Truman.
I always learn something. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and see, and Churchill is sending them cables to the socialist government from Washington and keeping them involved blow by blow. And then it was just a wonderful little dance, well prepared, because, it made a storm. Stalin attacked it. The New York Times attacked it, to name two people who somehow fit in the group. And Truman said, well, I didn't know what he's going to say. Well, they rode down together on the train from Washington, Missouri. And Churchill cabled back home to the socialist government. I read the speech and he loves it, right? And then the British government said, of course, he's not speaking for the British government. And Churchill is very artful in the way he introduces that speech, because he's standing there in his academic garb at Westminster College in Fulton, Missouri. And his beginning of speech says, after a long life, I occupy no official station. There's nothing here but what you see. Well, I have a photograph. And what you see is Winston Churchill at the podium, and immediately to his left, the President of the United States sitting there. So you see...
Oh, that's elegant.
Oppositions. There are things that you can do together, and they're a sign of health in the nation when that happens. And both sides should be looking for those things. Now, our politics are, we're in sort of 1850s kind of politics right now. And there's two Americas, and they're contending. And one of the reasons is these questionable things in the election, and there seem to be a terrible lot of them. One of the reasons they spark so fast and so much is because there's two radically different directions to go in.
But I want to close by Lincoln. We are friends. We must not be enemies. I hope I have the quote correct. Do I not?
Oh, yeah. And, the mystic chords of memory will keep us united. Well, that's what I pray for. And some of the things that are proposed, which wouldn't happen unless they get the Senate, is, that there's an interest in making one party undefeatable in electoral politics. And that's a change in the structure of the nation, and that can't be agreed to. That's got to be resisted.
And that is on the shoulders of Georgia. Georgia, that is on your shoulders. We'll be back next week with more Dr. Larry Arnn on the next Hillsdale Dialogue. Until then, thank you, Dr. Arnn. Thanks all of you. Everything Hillsdale, including all of the Hillsdale Dialogues, are found at hughforhillsdale.com and everything Hillsdale at hillsdale.edu. Have a great weekend.